It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
You do your work, and we will do our bit.
Republic. I like the sentiment of it. It means people can live free, talk free, go or come, buy or sell, be drunk or sober, however they choose.
Are you ready to be who you are?
No poetry, just a straight answer.
The government has deliberately sought to deceive the United States by false statements and expressions of hope for continued peace.
We are men of the hood. Mary, now at your expense.
But there's no both sides anymore. They're just trying to wreck our goddamn country. It's time for you younger guys to take over it.
You were meant to be here tonight. This is your time. Their time is done. It's over. Screw them. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
If you guys don't start thinking as men, we're gonna have a lousy country.
For the crimes of incitement to cause unrest, I declare to be an outlaw!
All right, everybody, it is the Outlaw Radio Network. Oh, my voice sounds really weird. Does it sound okay in your headphones?
Weird. You sound good.
It sounds all echoey in these headphones.
No, you sound really clean.
No, hold on. Listen, put that on. And you can hear what my voice sounds like. Sounds like I'm dry humping a robot.
No.
I know, but if you try it,
yeah,
I get it too.
You get it too, yeah.
I get like a phasing effect, and I'm
just
plugged directly into there.
Yeah, I got a phasing effect. Do you hear how that sounds, Tom? Yeah. See, Tom. Yeah, Tom hears it too. It's okay.
It's your
figure
headphones.
it out. Well, it's our dentist's headphones. Hey, everybody, welcome to Outlaw Radio. It is the 15th of June, 2025. And technical challenges abound, but thanks for being a part of the show. No, it's doing this. It's still doing the flange
Still doing
thing.
it?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Otherwise, I'll just listen to myself sound like a robot, which is totally cool. I am the sexiest robot ever. Coming up in just a minute, Chris Gergen's going to join us live from the Dark Horse Political Studios in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll chat with because I was talking to Paul earlier, right? There are some weeks when there's no news. Like there are some weeks where we're literally digging for things to talk about and trying to create some content and figure out where to go. And we're digging down deep into like legislative things. And that's usually one of those weeks where I'm picking on Michelle Caldier, right? Because there's nothing else to talk about besides how awful of a candidate she is. But whatever. This is not one of those weeks. This week we saw a huge ass military parade that kind of flopped. We saw Israel and Iran ratchet up their stuff again. We saw all the protests that started on
Thursday.
Was it? It was
No.
Tuesday. It started on Tuesday.
No, it was the following. It was the previous weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw them on Tuesday because I was in Seattle. It's just been, then you had the No King stuff over the weekend. You've got the shootings of the elected folk in Minnesota. We'll talk about all that later. Yes, it was Friday the 13th on Friday. So maybe like we've taken like gay pride is not a day, it's a whole month. Maybe Friday the 13th is now a whole month too, because this entire month of June, the first half of June has been completely whacked out of its freaking mind. And there's no shortage of things for us to talk about. So we'll talk about all those. A lot of it with Chris Gergen coming up in just a couple of minutes. Later in the show, we will get into anything we don't cover with Chris. So really, we're just going to go balls to the walls with Chris. Not the first time he's heard that because he is in Vegas. And that's kind of a Thursday night thing to do is go balls to the walls in Vegas. But whatever we don't get into with Chris, we will we'll cover later. And I'm really going to focus as we bring Chris on in just a moment with Chris's thoughts. We'll get to our stuff later. But I know Chris is looking at this from like an insider viewpoint, as a guy who's been inside the system and inside these campaigns, and he's going to have a lot of stuff to share. I do want to give out a happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I do want to wish everybody the best on Father's Day. If you have your dad, make sure you call him. Don't be a prick. Tell him you love him. If you don't have your dad, then Dennis and I are commiserating with you tonight. So think fond, happy memory thoughts, and send your prayers up. All right. Lori is here. Right, Lori? Hi, Lori. Why are you standing there?
I was going to put this in front of the monitor.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love the title of today's
I'm going to
show.
start naming the shows. Today's episode is named the What the Fuck Did We Wake Up To edition of the Outlaw Radio Network. I'm going to give a title to these every week, and it's going to go when I start uploading these to Spotify again. So this will be the What the Fuck Did We Wake Up To edition.
Exactly.
Paul has wandered in. Hello, Tom. How was your week, my friend?
My week's been a whirlwind.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, you look good.
I spent the first part of today underneath a building, pulling wire around and stuff. So I got before I came into the show, I had to go get cleaned up because I smelled like a goat.
That's funny. Paul spent the good part of the afternoon underneath the tranny. Speaking of Paul, St. Paul, the voice of reason,
Paul's
joins us.
got a
Hello,
nice
Paul.
shirt on.
Good to see
Happy
you, buddy.
Father's Day.
Yeah, wearing a nice pastel blue shirt.
Whoa.
No, I
It's not
like
really.
it. I'm being serious. Hold on, you're not turned on yet. Waiting for Dennis to turn your mic on. But no, I'm saying I like the shirt. I know you don't normally wear pastel colors, so it's just different to see you in some color.
First of all, we don't need to make a racial issue. I will say this. He said.
I said he was
got
wearing color. Yeah.
Do you need me to explain that?
No,
for you?
I got
Okay.
the joke.
We'll talk about it later. I'm actually going to admit to Paul later that he was right about something, but I'm not going to do it this early in the show
What?
because he'll just remind me of it the whole time.
Oh,
Yeah.
we need to get. Hang on a second.
Okay, I'll hang on. Oh, she's got one. Okay. I was just like, well, I could really.
All right.
I could
Well, while you guys
understand.
figure that out, let me bring him on. Joining us from the Dark Horse Political Studios in Lost Wages, Nevada. Good friend of the show, and I think a good friend of all of us too. I think he will admit he's our friend. Chris, are you our friend or just?
No, I'm a friend. I will say you guys need to change that picture of me on your thumbnail.
Well, I
'Cause
sent
I
a message to you earlier today asking for a photo, but you didn't respond to it and send me a photo, so we had to use the old photo.
I didn't get that message. That
It's right
sounds
above the
like
link
you're
I
just
sent
saying
you
that
for,
to
this,
make me look
for the link
bad.
to the StreamYard. Yeah, it's right there.
Is
You
it?
just didn't see it in time. It's okay. Send me a new photo. Not a nude photo, but a new photo.
That sounded weird.
Nobody needs to see a nude photo. That's
No.
for sure.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Well, we're good. We're good. It's good to see your face.
Likewise.
Let me ask you the question that everybody's been asking me about Chris Gergen. When is Chris coming back to Washington?
I'm not sure. I mean, it could be probably. Well, I've got some things coming up as far as campaigns go. One of which I can't announce yet because the person hasn't announced yet. But that will probably require me to be in town. So probably within the next maybe 2-3 months, I should be around.
Okay. I'm going to ask you the question without asking you the question,
Hmm?
because we've heard rumors that one of our favorite former elected people might be running for office again. I'm not going to mention their name or give their initials, but let me ask the question this way. When you come up, if there's an announcement, will the announcement make us very happy?
That person I think that you're talking about, no, I mean, that person is running, is that person running in a race currently?
No, I've heard
Not
it somebody,
publicly.
not publicly, not that we've heard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm at a loss.
Okay. All
So
right.
are we.
We'll talk
It's
off
all
air.
good. Yeah. So are we.
We'll talk
Yeah.
off air. I'm trying to trip you up.
Didn't work. He kept his footing. Did you see
I know.
that?
Listen,
Yeah,
he's
it's
a trained
impressive.
professional, man. He knows what he's doing.
Well, listen. I will say this. Mr. Gergen put out an old news clip on his Facebook page
Yeah.
the other
Old
day.
school.
Damn, did boy look young? That's all I'm gonna say.
Dude,
You
I
look
tell you
young.
what, the years have not been kind, man. That was only like 9 years ago.
I know. You looked like a baby face dude back then. Oh, look, Boss Baby's here. Hello, Boss Baby. What do you want?
Nothing.
She just zoomed in for a second.
She zoomed in for a
I'm
second,
doing,
then left.
I'm doing my part. Goodbye.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's-
you looked all baby face, man, and now you look all like a haggard veteran.
I know, man. It's, they say it's not the years, it's the miles.
There you
So
go.
I'm like, I've got high miles. I got parts falling off, Bondo, duct tape.
It's never good when you go to the wife and you're like, "Can you put me back together again? It's been a rough week," and she has parts left over.
That's right. Yeah,
So those
that's
clamps
exactly
are for.
right.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, normally I have like pointed questions to ask, and I ask about a specific topic and all of that. But I guess, as we talked about at the show open, there's been so much stuff that's happened in the last 7 days. I mean, from Trump's parade to the protests to the situation in Minnesota to Israel and Iran to Trump's phone call with Putin. There's just so much stuff. What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you've been watching this week that really has Chris Gergen's attention?
I think we're seeing in real time kind of reordering of power, both on a national or both on a worldwide level as well as here nationally. I think that what we're seeing between the political parties, I think you're seeing the destruction of the Democrat Party like in real time, and at least as we know it, their optics couldn't be worse. Their approval ratings couldn't be worse. I mean, even their own liberal media outlets are having to admit now that the Dems, are their likability is in the toilet. And that's not to say that Republicans are flying high and you go to your local Walmart and everybody in there is wearing a MAGA hat. That isn't what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that when you look at specific issues like the economy, who do you trust more on the economy? Well, Republicans far outpace Democrats on the economy. Even Democrats are saying that Republicans have a better plan. When it comes to worldwide, foreign policy, the polls are saying that Americans trust, Republicans more than Democrats, and it just seems like their the Democrat embrace of this illegal aliens and basically anybody that's not America, right? It's like they're on that team, and I'm just waiting for the Iran flags to start going up on Facebook on people's profile pictures, right? And I think that we're at a place now where a lot of the identity politics and that kind of woke thing, I think that has run its course politically, at least. You even see it with Pride Month, right? June is Pride Month. Nobody's putting up pride stuff. I mean, companies are like, yeah, we're not really going to do that this year.
Yeah, Target ran from it. Like if you went into Target last June, it was rainbow everywhere.
Oh, trans,
and if you,
the whole 9 yards, yeah.
And if you go into Target today, it's red, white, and blue everywhere.
100%.
Go broke.
Yeah, and it's just one of these things where I think that the entire mood in the country has shifted. And listen, this is not a full-throated endorsement that I believe that everyone in America just magically is going to vote Republican. I mean, that's just simply not the case. The Republicans have a lot of problems and and a lot of challenges, and there's a lot of things in the House that the Speaker needs to get his head and ass wired together on, and there's a lot of things in the Senate that that Thune needs to get his head and ass wired together on, because Trump has done a lot through executive orders, which is great, but that's just temporary, right? And ultimately the legislature, the Congress has to put those things into law, and if they don't, then the following president, whether it's Vance or Rubio or a Democrat, which the Democrats don't really have anybody on the bench, but let's just say it is a Democrat, then
AOC.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, okay, so all those executive orders, regardless of who it's going to be, go right out the window, right? Or at least it's on the table, right? So because just because Trump did it doesn't mean that Vance is going to continue it. Right. Rubio would continue it. So there's just, I think we're seeing in real time a reordering. Israel took the gloves off. I think ultimately, America kind of let Israel off of its chain, and Israel is not someone to play with. They're a very, very strong country, and they might be small, but they have the means with which to put the hurt on anybody in the Middle East. And I think what we're seeing is kind of an unraveling of really bad foreign policy decisions that were made in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, with the rise of the Ayatollah Khomeini and frankly, bad policy decisions from the Reagan era, from the Bush Senior era, from the Clinton era, right, all the way through. I think we're seeing kind of an unraveling of that. And there's going to be a little bit of pain involved in that, or a lot of pain, right? The last thing in the world America needs is another war. I've said that for a long time. And I am, they say nobody prays for peace more than the soldier. That's a fact, right? I'm not looking for another war. However, if we're going to have one, Iran would be someone we want to unravel, because Trump has done a lot in foreign policy with like Syria, lifting the sanctions on Syria and helping Syria to get stood back up, right? And then you've got Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has now come to the table. And listen, I'm no fan of the Saudi Arabians, but they were behind 9/11, and I mean, there's problems there. Don't get me wrong, but we don't need them on the other side of the table. We need them to come forward, and Trump has done a lot to extend the olive branch and to stabilize the region. Iran's extremist regime needs to change. I think that will relieve a lot of problems that we have, or at least some of the problems that we have in Iraq still, right? And Afghanistan is its own monster, but the Iranians are one of the largest sponsors of terror.
Absolutely. Huge state sponsors of terror. Yep.
Across the world, right? And so I think a regime change there, kind of a normalization of relationship over time, right? It isn't like the Ayatollah Khomeini gets removed or is killed on a Monday and all of a sudden, we're having beers on Tuesday, but it's going to be a process. But I think that normalization process needs to happen. And if we can normalize that and develop a working relationship with them, what it does for the economic markets, not only in Iran, but in the region and nationally, internationally, I think it's very positive. Iran, puts out a lot of oil, right? So the oil markets right now are going crazy. But if we can normalize Iran, then I think that also boxes in Russia, right? It boxes in China. There's a lot of pieces on this board, and there's a little bit of pain that I think we're going to see moving forward. But ultimately, hopefully, if they finish the job, if we do this stupid crap that we did in Iraq and Afghanistan and don't finish what we started, and we end up in a forever war, or we go in and we don't quite get the job done, we let the people remain in power, then it's just going to be a bullshit situation that continues. So.
No, 100%. And to your point about not finishing the job, I still have a hard spot inside of me for General Schwarzkopf and Bush during Desert Storm, because they let our allies, the Kurds, get massacred when we pulled out, and we totally left them high and dry. So you're right. I pray to God. I think, to me, Trump has proven himself to be the kind of leader where he will do everything he can to avoid conflict. But once he gets pushed past a certain point, he's not playing the political BS games. It's the gloves come off, and now I'm going to beat your ass.
Right.
And we've not seen that side of him.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think we have. So I'm hoping we don't see it now, but I am of the mindset that, if we're going to see it, I don't think so.
We kind of did with Syria, right? When he just decided, okay, I'm going to authorize a strike in Syria in his first term, where he identified the Syrian air bases where where
he felt the chemical attacks came from.
I
don't think that was him taking the gloves off. I think that was a reciprocal exchange of gunfire. You shot at me, I'm going to shoot at you. It was proportional, which is a word I freaking hate in politics, and in foreign relations, which means you only fired one bullet at me, I'm only going to fire 2 or 3 at you in return. No, beat their asses down. And that's just where I'm at. I have a good friend of mine who's a captain in the United States Army, and he is right now in Tel Aviv. And he's active duty. We don't need to get into what he's doing there. Some things are relatively self-explanatory. But it's just, he sent me a picture. The Israelis are so like not fazed by this that their whole staff went downstairs into the basement of the hotel, and the hotel sent room service down to them. Like, excuse me, there's rockets raining down on you. Oh, yes, we know, but would you like some tea, coffee, croissant? Like, what the heck? That's a people that have seen this movie before.
Yep.
Well, and the other news that got released earlier today from unnamed sources, air quotes, is that Trump put the kibosh on Israel's plan to take out the supreme leader of Iran. And I want people to think about that for a minute, right?
Yeah, I don't believe that.
I do. I mean, I think it's smart, right, to not take out a religious leader and instead let the Israelis take out all the military people that are behind the military decisions, the military moves, especially with Hezbollah and Hamas. But if it's true, it would represent a measuredness of Trump that we haven't seen, right? This idea that he's going to run his mouth in public in front of the cameras, but when it comes to making a decision, he is reserved and thoughtful before the decision gets made. Because if you had asked me, you think that Trump would just take out the Ayatollah? My response would have been, of course he would. Like, why would you not? This is a guy that's impeded the U.S. negotiations towards the nuclear stuff. This is a guy that has hook, line, and sinker at everything against Israel. This is a guy that advocated for sending troops and drones in that attacked enemy forces and U.S. forces in Iraq.
Well,
why would you not take him out?
I will tell you why he didn't take him out.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm not saying he should have.
Right.
But I'm saying my prediction would have been, of course he would have, because Trump seems like a loose cannon.
Well,
and what happened? He wasn't.
Listen, they did that in Iraq, and it created a vacuum that was filled by ISIS.
Mhm.
Like, I think that I think there's some learning that has gone on over the last 10 years, right? And the Middle East is not the kind of place where you go in and toss a hand grenade in a room and wait to see who comes in and picks up the pieces.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's too volatile with religion.
Hey, Chris, you talked earlier about the Democratic Party in the state that they're in. Can I play for you just part of a clip? I'm not going to play the whole 4 minutes, but can I play for you part of a clip that has become representative of what the left movement looks like today?
You're a religious man, Chris, right? This is the Moses moment.
This is the Moses moment.
Moses. Do you know who
That's
Moses
what I
is?
said. Shut
Kevin?
up.
Moses.
Yeah, he was the dude that built the ark.
My people go.
He didn't build the ark. I'm being funny. All right, so this is a video that is circulated all over on Twitter. I hope that the audio works. Let's see. This is at one of the ICE detention sites. Where they're trying to transport some detainees out of those sites. And this is a group of protesters. And I'm just going to play part of the video.
Okay.
Hold on.
You got to turn the volume up there, brother. There you
That's
go.
what I'm working on. Hold on. Well, no, because I get
now
audio
you're hearing
over here.
yourself.
I know.
It's okay. Listen, Tom will be thankful if you don't play it. It's okay. But there's something about watching this lady. I'm pretty sure it's a lady. I mean, I would bet money that it's a lady thing person.
Yeah, hold on.
But anyway, so she's wearing the black shirt and the black hat.
Right.
And she literally grabs a hold of the front of this semi and does nothing but yell at the truck driver, "Let my people go."
Okay, hold on. I have an idea how to fix this. Hold on. Give me a second. Just
okay.
keep talking.
You got 1 second, Kevin. All right, that's good. Anyway, I will say this, Chris, that after what happened this weekend, I don't want to pretend that I know exactly where we're at. But I called my son today because one thing really struck out. You know, I was watching the Army's 250th birthday parade, and I was really disappointed in one thing in our military, and that was that as I was watching, these young men and women who were in formation were not marching in time. They were not in step. They weren't even close. Like it didn't. And I was like, WTF? Like, what the is going on here? Yeah. And so I called up my son and I asked him. I'm like, it was something going on. Am I missing something? Was the footage because his fiance was in that parade?
Oh, wow.
She was on horseback. She's part of one of the caisson units from Fort Hood in Texas. And so I was like, what is this some inside joke? Am I missing something? I mean, do they stop teaching drill and ceremonies in the Army? And he literally said, "Dad." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Nobody takes it seriously. Nobody." He goes, "And they haven't since the woke policies got introduced into the Army. He goes, since then, they don't even practice drill and ceremonies. Like, that made me physically ill. I'm like, talk about a loss of your military mindset. I mean, that is one of the disciplinary type things that really helps you stay lockstep where you need to be. Keep your headspace and timing correct, right? And I'm seeing all these people on the left, like going, oh, look at how screwed up our military is. They can't even walk in time together. And I'm just wanting to scream at the top of my lungs. It's because they instituted your fucking policies, you woke son of a bitch. Like, this is the effect. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just marching in time. But these crazy lefties, what did they start doing, Chris? They started going, oh, our military isn't as good as the Russians or the North Koreans or the Chinese because they walk in step together. And I'm like, you got a freaking point. You just don't understand why you have a point. Did you see it, or was it just me?
No, I saw it. I saw clips of it. I wasn't a fan of the parade personally, because that's just not my style, right? I don't really like stuff like that. I'm more of a high speed, low drag kind of guy. And
it's a very, very unique comment for you to throw out there. Go on.
What we got is that Chris is into drag. Okay, got it.
No, that's not what that means.
So it was propaganda, basically, right? I get it.
Absolutely.
And,
yeah, it was.
Propaganda is what it is, and everybody uses it. I use it. It's one of the central things that I do in my career, right? And so all marketing is propaganda. In fact,
100%.
The genesis of marketing and advertising as we know it today was founded by Edward Bernays, and he wrote a book called, wait for it, Propaganda, right? And so that's and I get it. I understand why they were going to do it. It's not really my style. As far as them not walking in step, that's military bearing.
That's right. 100%.
But those weren't tactical teams. Those were just general military guys in the different services, Army and different things. If you talk about the Green Berets or Delta or any of the other special,
it wasn't the tier one guys.
Those guys will take you apart. And anybody that says that we're not on par with the Russians or the Chinese, that's just an uninformed, that's just an uninformed statement. The United States there is really only one peer that we have in the world, and that would be China at this point. And even then, it's only in certain things.
Correct.
And we have the finest Navy in the world, period, full stop. We have more boats, more ships, more planes, more everything than anybody else. And we are better at using them than anybody else.
Great deal of experience. And that pains me as a 10-year Army guy, right? It pains me to acknowledge how great the United States Navy is. So you're welcome, Kevin.
Well, listen. Let me ask this question, because some people in the chat have asked, because at the beginning of the show I said that the parade was Trump's parade and was kind of a flop. So I'm going to make a statement, Chris. Tell me if you agree. One, this is Trump's parade because Trump was the one that made it happen. He was the one that put it together. Sure. He was the driving force behind it.
Sure.
And no matter what anybody else says, this was not about the Army. This was about Trump wanting to put on a parade and having a reason to do so. And the reason I know that is because in October, the United States Navy will celebrate its 250th anniversary, and there will not be a parade.
Can you imagine the Navy having a parade?
I certainly can imagine.
There's no water in Washington, D.C. So,
there's water. There's the Potomac, right? But the Navy has plenty of land vehicles as well. Navy SEALs are some of the toughest SOBs on land ever.
Sure.
So I'm just saying. So if this was about credit where credit is due to the armed forces, then the Navy would get theirs, and the Marines would get theirs, and the Air Force would get theirs, and the Coast Guard wouldn't get one because they don't deserve it. But it would happen. It's not going to happen. This was totally about Trump and Trump's ego and his desire to have a parade. Now, I don't agree with it. I don't disagree with anything he said. We should support our wins. We certainly should. Every other nation in the world does. Why is it so bad in the United States to be proud of what our fighting military has done? I don't have an issue with it. but it's completely about Trump.
Well, it's nice of you to say that, but this was in the works well before Trump was even elected. So, I mean, and listen, I love you, but it takes 3 seconds of research to determine that. I understand where you're coming from, speaking the party line. I do, but it's not true. It's just simply not true. Go ahead.
Okay, so there will be a 250th Navy parade.
Depends on what the Department of the Navy is doing. Why don't you send them an email and ask?
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
Well, I'm dead serious about that. I don't know what the Department of Navy's up to, but the Department of the Army has been planning this for a long time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is Trump going to jump at the opportunity to have a 250th birthday celebration on his birthday? Right, of course he's going to do it. Right? It's good. It's good media. It's good press. Right? But again, it just. Like I said, I wasn't a super big fan of it because it didn't feel like it was in keeping with anything that in my lifetime, and I'll be 50 next year. In my lifetime, I've never seen anything like that from any American president. And, I mean, if there was a president in the last 50 years that would have done something like that, it probably would have been Reagan. Because I don't see Clinton doing that, right? And I don't see, Senior doing it or Junior.
Well, Senior did do it, but
did he really? Okay,
yes, he did.
I didn't. Apparently, I wasn't paying attention. But
it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
it wasn't huge.
It just doesn't. I mean, did they do it? Okay, great. Right, move on. And at the speed of media, all this will be forgotten. I'm surprised, frankly, we're talking about it today because just how fast media, rolls. We're on to the next big thing. Trump does a parade, it's like, all right, but Trump's he's a showman, right? I mean, that's part of his thing, as part of his angle. And what's a bigger show than featuring the United States Army and using that as an opportunity to celebrate our military? I do think it was good propaganda as far as highlighting. Of course, the execution was piss poor, but highlighting and really building pride in our military again, because the DEI and all that stuff really hurt recruiting numbers, hurt the reputation, of the military. And I think Americans, by and far, have a lot of pride in our military. But as far as a lot of Americans also look at the military and just kind of shake their head at some of the political stuff, right, that goes on. And doesn't mean they don't support the troops, doesn't mean they don't support the airmen and the sailors and all those guys, but supporting the condition that they're in, I think, is different. And what Trump, I think, was trying to do was just raise the level of pride again, and to help Americans remember that we can still be proud of our military, and that things are going to be different. And by the way, Kevin, I got to defend my coasties, the Coast Guard, man. Those dudes are the real deal. If you're ever in a boat in the ocean, you don't want the Navy to come get you. You want the Coast Guard to come get you. Mm-hmm. They are the real deal.
I just had to, throw stones at the coasties. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I need a hobby.
Yeah. Or a woman.
Hey, listen, the other thing I wanted to ask you about tonight, Chris, and we're jumping around a lot because there's just so much, and we've only got 3 hours, right? Mm-hmm. The situation in Minnesota.
Yeah.
As somebody who has worked at state level politics, mm-hmm. at getting those people elected, at building relationships, what were your thoughts as the details of what happened over the weekend kind of came to light?
Well, I think it's very sad, and it is, everybody's talking about how it's politically motivated. I think it absolutely was. I think that this is very bad for Tim Walz, just because he had appointed this guy, and just that there's a connection. I don't think that Tim Walz, sent this guy, and that he was a sleeper cell guy, and that there's some sort of Tim Walz isn't that smart. Right, he couldn't pull that off.
He's not.
No, that dude's a dumbass. Genuinely low IQ. But having said that, I think that this is what happens when you ratchet up rhetoric, and when two legislators break with their party over a central theme in their party, you get an extremist that will pop up and say, you know what, there's going to be consequences because you didn't toe the line. And it's very sad that this happened. And you know, I think that frankly, if they continue, they being the Democrats, continue with this rhetoric, that you're going to see more of it, you know. And
I will say this, Chris. I all the information we're seeing coming out, including from his roommate, is that he's on the right and he's an anti-abortion advocate. And so, you know, they're of course trying to link it all to you know, MAGA folks and everything else. And
but hold on, if he was that far on the right, how did he get appointed by a Democrat governor to a Democrat to a position?
His work he was doing with the church and other nonprofits in Africa and stuff like that is how that happened.
Okay.
Well, just because he's a Jesus guy doesn't mean that he's and I mean that with all respect, but you know, just because he's a Jesus guy doesn't mean that he's a righty. There are a lot of Jesus people that are lefties. And,
absolutely.
You know, the bottom line is this guy was just batshit crazy. He had a bunch of propaganda and paraphernalia in his vehicle. He was out there looking for somebody to kill, and you know, it doesn't make any sense if those two Democratic legislators broke with their party, right? It doesn't make sense that this guy was a righty that went out and whacked these two guys. That's just stupid.
Yeah, there's a lot of things about it that don't make sense. And I will say this, and I think that's why it was so easy for people to jump to conclusions yesterday, right?
Sure.
You had a total of 4 Democrats that were shot in their homes, and 2 of them were dead. And and these were people that, like you said, they had broke with their party on an issue. And that's why people made the conclusions that they made. But stuff has come out, and I thought
I read that he had a list of 70 other Democrat names in the car that were on.
Well,
it
was just 70 names. It didn't say that they were Democrats.
I read that it was all.
Yeah, it was just a list of 70 names. But he was some of his people were pro-abortion folks, right? So
sure,
you know, that to me bothers me more than anything, because I have a hard time. I mean, I am very, very pro-life, and I take a lot of grief for it, but I don't care. You know what it's like, Chris, when you're really passionate about something like that, you know. And I tell everybody, so I'm gonna be a voice for those unborn children that don't, because frankly, in my opinion, other people don't care enough. That's my opinion, and I don't like the fact that sometimes these pro-life guys just kind of tend to go off the rails. You know, let me blow up an abortion clinic. It's like, you're sending the wrong message, partner. Just saying.
Yeah. No, agreed. And it's extremism. This is what happens when you get into rhetoric that is in the extremes, right? And doesn't matter if the guy was a righty or a lefty.
Right.
You know, like there was a nut job. So you remember that congresswoman that got shot in the head in Arizona a number of years ago. She was at a political function and she got shot. What was her name? Gabby
Giffords.
Yep. She's the one that got shot and then
and survived. Yeah.
And survived. Right. And so that was an extremist. That was a wacko. You know what I mean? The guy that shot up. Remember they had the congressional baseball game.
Yes. And, the Bernie Sanders supporter.
Yep. And it was Scalise that got whacked.
Still walks with a pronounced limp, doesn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And or he didn't get whacked, he got shot. But you know, I don't personally hold Bernie Sanders responsible for that. It's the rhetoric around these people that I and frankly the propaganda people that put all that together. Those are the people that are responsible for it, and they know what they're doing. You know what I mean? If you know you're trying to move public opinion, you're trying to bring people into the extremes and create narrative and therefore political opportunities in the media. Like, you know what you're doing. Like, you know that this is going to be the consequence. At some point, someone's going to lose their shit and they're going to go out and they're not going to be stable. And it just takes a little bit of a nudge to push these people over the edge. And then they go and shoot up a place, or they go and drive their vehicle down a sidewalk and start running people over.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Chris, you brought up the rhetoric, right? And about how at some point, so let's talk about Bernie Sanders. We were just talking about him, right? Because this guy has a penchant for saying stuff that just is effing weird. So he went on to say on Saturday.
Can I interrupt really quick and then come back to this? We have breaking news that Lance Bolter has been taken into custody. The man who's been accused of the shootings in Minnesota, thanks to our correspondent on the scene, Big Daddy Josh Burdick, who actually is in Minnesota, and he gave us that information. So watch, we'll get more to that as we get it.
Yeah, well, and he's been taken alive too. So that's, well, didn't say that, but
yeah, I'm actually surprised he didn't kill himself.
Right. Well, I mean, a true coward won't take his own life when he takes other people's.
They did say taken into custody.
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah. So Bernie Sanders said Saturday morning, I want to applaud all the patriots who will be participating, as I will, in No King rallies across the country.
Sure.
Americans believe in freedom, not authoritarianism, which is odd for a communist to say. In 1776, brave Americans took on and defeated the most powerful despot in the world.
Right.
In 2025, we will do the same.
Yeah.
I'm curious what how do you perceive that? Like we were just talking about is that dangerous rhetoric to you?
So for me, it's one of two things. Either it's just sloppy, right? So if he actually tweeted that and not one of his little dumb shits that handle his Twitter, if he actually tweeted that, I would say it's sloppy. If it was one of his little dumb shit activists that handle his Twitter, then I would say it's intentional and that they knew what they were doing when they put that out.
You're saying he's looking for plausible deniability.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very rare that a congressman or a senator actually handles their own Twitter or handles their own social media.
Well, he doesn't even know what the internet is.
Right. Yeah. So typically staffers handle that. Now, usually a chief of staff or somebody like that will approve or disapprove, posts because it's their job to protect their boss, right? Or they won't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare that like a sitting U.S. senator would, have a low-level guy come up and say, Senator Sanders, can you please approve this tweet? Like I would probably say that didn't happen that way. I could be wrong, but I've never seen that, honestly. Sometimes, Mr. Trump it's very rare that the president, handles his own tweets, but who's going to take Trump's phone from him?
Right. Who can forget the Kofifi, right? It's just,
who's going to walk in the Oval Office and be like, Mr. Trump, can you please hand your phone over? He's going to tell you to get the fuck out of here. Pardon my French,
right.
But most, like my clients, they specifically do not handle their own social media. A, I don't want them reading what people are saying. B, because I need them locked in and focused on what the message is. This is the message. This is what we say. Here, if they say this, we say this. Like it's all scripted for them, and I can't have them reading the media because it doesn't make a difference how hardened you are. Like I give exactly zero shits what people think about me. But you know what? Even me, after all these years in this business, if I get a bunch of just negative stuff, I can't say that it doesn't creep in. Right?
Yes,
I would be lying to say that it doesn't creep in. Now, at the end of the day, I go to bed and then I get up in the morning. I'm like, I don't give a shit, right? But there is that little point where nobody likes to read all that stuff. And when you're in the middle of a campaign and, like I'll take Lauren Culp as an example. So during the 2020, Lauren absolutely did not in any way handle any of his social media. When he ran for Congress, he handled his Twitter. And I did not. And, and those tweets that went out were his tweets, not mine. And now I got blamed for it, but it wasn't me. It was him. He was the one that handled that stuff.
But that's a good marriage, right? One person does the damage, the other one gets blamed for it.
Yeah, but that's the role of a political consultant. If when you win, it's always the candidate that gets the W, right? And then you pass down to the wonderful people that were supported you and the volunteers, which is legitimate. You don't win elections without volunteers and support. But when you lose, it's never the candidate's fault. It's always the consultant's fault, right? So if you can't handle that dynamic just as a person, then that's probably not the right vocation for you.
It's like you can liken it to being a coach in a professional sporting league.
1,000%. That's exactly what it is. When you win the Super Bowl, Tom Brady's amazing. He's the GOAT, all that stuff. When you lose the Super Bowl, oh my God, what was Pete Carroll thinking? Throwing, trying to throw when you're on the 2-yard line, right?
Why would you bring that up, man?
Because
Come on.
I absolutely hate the Seahawks, so I have to bring that up.
Well, I'm glad that you took some of our leftovers. You're gonna have a great year this year.
Dude who's like, I hate the Seahawks. You got Pete Carroll as a coach, man.
And I don't like Pete Carroll. I didn't like him when he was at USC.
And
I
Geno
didn't
Smith,
like him when he
by the
was in
way.
Seattle.
That sounds like karma's a bitch, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. And then he came to Vegas. I just rolled my eyes. And then we got Chip Kelly, who, because I'm a Ducks fan, right? I grew up in Eugene, and so.
Oh my God, really?
So Chip Kelly is this traitor that fucking rolls out on us, right? And we were building a good thing here, and then now all of a sudden we get Chip Kelly too. So
he just kind of disappeared. I don't even know where the hell he's been for the last 10 years.
He's been bouncing around trying to win a game.
And he did great in college, and all
he
of a
was
sudden,
head coach at UCLA most recently before he got the gig in Las Vegas, I think.
Unreal.
Yeah, they did. And they kind of turned it around, but then I think he went over to Philly. It was their offensive coordinator or something like that. And then,
he was head coach there for a while too.
Yeah,
that's right. I remember. Yeah, when he was at Philly, and he was doing the whole like no huddle kind of offense stuff that he was running like he did in college. So
are you a Raider fan then?
Look at all the hate in the chat. Because I shit on the Seahawks.
It's okay, man. Listen.
Oh, everybody's telling me, even in the private chat, you guys are like, "We're sorry, you can't be here anymore."
Are you a Raider fan then?
Just by virtue of the fact that they're here.
Okay.
Right. I didn't grow up a Raider fan. I grew up a 49er fan. And
for fuck's sake, man.
That's worse.
Man. You know, clearly the guy's in politics because there's some things you just shouldn't say.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? You're not talking to me about Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, when I was a kid.
Greats, and they were classy too.
Jerry Rice, second best receiver in NFL history.
Yeah. So,
second best.
The 80s and 90s Niners. I haven't followed the 49ers in many years, right? I would not call myself a 49er fan now, but I grew up as a 49er fan.
Okay.
I don't like the current NFL. I think it's stupid, honestly. And I watch college football more than anything else.
Yeah, I love college football. Man, they're playing for the love of the game, Chris.
That's right. And
they're not.
They aren't now
playing for an NFL contract.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry to all the Seahawks fans.
It's all right.
I don't even know what to talk to you about now.
It's all right. It's all right. Watching Kevin have a meltdown over here. There's smoke coming out of his ears.
He'll be okay.
Orange goo coming out between his eyelids.
Ew.
Yeah. Well, it's infected.
You know what the Raiders and Possums have in common?
What's
they both
that?
play dead. They both play dead at home and get killed on the road. Okay, so
Nice.
Chris, God bless you, man. I hate to end it on this 49ers bullshit.
Well, let me just say this thing.
God.
Hold on. They celebrated No King's Day yesterday, right? With all those protests.
Yes.
Chris, I just want to let you know this, and I'm sure you're probably already aware of this. We already have a No King's Day. It's July 4th.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. So we already have a No King's Day. These guys just didn't know how to read a calendar. Okay.
Yeah,
just leave it at that.
Agreed. 1,000%.
And there should be a big Navy parade in October.
How about we make it a flotilla, okay? And I'd be all for it. I would love to see the Navy go swimming by with some of those beautiful, magnificent ships.
Yeah, that would be great.
What would they do? Up in Astoria, don't they do a Navy like a fleet? Well, they have Fleet Week, right?
They have Fleet Week up in New York. Yeah, they just don't send Mexican ships up there anymore.
That's true. Yeah, I heard that was the Mexican Navy's flagship as well.
It was their training ship, yeah, and so they had some high-ranking officers on there. And I'm just look if that ship crashing into the dock and hitting the bridge and breaking up. I mean, I don't want to make too much light of it because a few sailors actually died in that. But I'm just like, if that is not so indicative of so many things right now, I'm just saying. You're all thinking it. I'm saying it. So.
No, I agree. I think it was funny that it was a 150-year-old ship as well.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is just, I mean, can you imagine being on the deck? It's like, hey, Bubba, y'all think we can fit under there? Hell yeah, let's do it.
somebody didn't get out their laser rangefinder. I mean,
Chris is basically referring to redneck Mexicans, not just Mexicans, but like redneck Mexicans.
Those
The
clearly
Mexican version of,
redneck
like, people from
Mexicans
Alabama.
on that ship.
Yeah, the Mexican version of our people from Alabama. Like, you know, Bubba, you think we can make it? Yeah, let's do it.
Look, does anybody have to make the joke, right? I mean, we're talking about people from Mexico in the Mexican Navy on a training ship. Clearly, they could swim.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Lord. Chris, listen, one last question. Obviously, there's going to be pressure from Israel for the U.S. to get more involved. I want to come back to this Israel conversation really quick. There's going to be pressure from Israel for the U.S. to get more involved, whether that be committing money, weapons, troops,
genocide,
all of the above, the poo-poo platter of assistance and aid. How much should the U.S. get involved with Israel on this thing with Iran, if at all?
Okay, good question, Kev.
Yeah, I think logistics, I think they should probably be involved because we need to know what's going on. We don't need to commit any sort of troops to this. We don't need to commit any sort of planes to this, any sort of bombs, unless they're like the defensive in nature, like the Patriot missile system and so forth, to shut down, incoming attacks. I'm not a big fan of war, man. I'm just not.
Yeah.
And
nothing good comes from it, brother. Nothing good.
I mean, I'm not a fan of people dying. I'm not a fan of the Russian-Ukraine war. 9/11 was why I joined the Navy. I was at the recruiter's office on 9/12. And
you did that later in life then, man, because you're only a few years younger than me.
I was 25.
Yeah.
And I was 25. I was married and had 2 young daughters, and was like, if there ever was a time in history to stand up and fight for your country, I felt like that was that time. Now, that was before I learned that we got lied to, right? And we ended up in a forever war. And I feel very different about the war, and doesn't mean I feel different about brothers and sisters that I served with, or guys out in the field on the ground, and in the Marines and everything they did. I honor all of their effort, but the why behind why they were there is now bullshit, and I call bullshit on it, as do a lot of veterans. In fact, I haven't met a veteran in the last 5-6 years that's like, oh yeah, we absolutely should have been there. Because now we know why we were there, and we weren't there for the right reasons. And I'm just not a fan of sending Americans somewhere else to die for something that should be fought by another country. And
what you are saying right now, Chris, is exactly the reason why I have been such a supporter of Tulsi Gabbard. She was not afraid to come out and say it. And I don't agree with her on most things politically, but I appreciate the fact that as a leader in the military, she said it, Anyway, that's all. I just want to say that.
No, I agree. And Israel has a stake. They have skin in the game. And if they want to go blow up the Ayatollah Khomeini, then you know what? Good on them. Let them go do it, right? If they want to, let everybody know that they're, I call it the fuck around and find out policy, right? You guys come and do stupid shit, then stupid shit's going to happen. You look at Gaza, or what used to be Gaza, right? Gaza's basically gone. And I think Israel has a right to exist. I really do. And it's not because I'm a big Israel lover or Israel supporter. I do honor the Jewish people and so forth. I'm married to a Jew, right? So, but at the same time, it's not America's war. Ukraine is not America's war. And these different, hitting terror cells in Yemen and these different things. Well, these people intend to destroy U.S. ships, to destroy shipping lanes, to disrupt commerce, international commerce. That's different. It's surgical, but we're not sending troops in and going into this big full scale war. Like the years for that are done. I think Americans, personally, at least this American, has had all I could possibly stand with that. So that's my opinion on it.
I'll have a controversial take on this at the top of next hour. Really quick, there is a comment from Sean in chat. Chris, I give you permission to kick the crap out of him for this joke. I'll let you have the joy. Sean said there was already a Navy parade. Most pride parades were last week. Whatever.
That's good.
Whatever.
You know what? I mean, hey, being a sailor, I got to take it. I get it. It's only queer when you're on the pier. It's not gay when you're underway. So
Kevin's talked many times about his time in the barrel. I still don't know what that means.
I know we talked about your time in the back of that tank. All right. Chris, we love you. Can we do this again soon?
100%, man. Whenever you want.
All right. I'm still planning my annual trip to Vegas. I'll let you know when I come down.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Will you hit the strip with me when I come down? Like, will you come down and party on the strip with me?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Party.
I party.
Okay.
I don't party like I used to party, but I party.
Okay.
Chris has got all the connections down there. We'll get all the special treatment. Chris, we love you. Chris, Dark Horse Political. When you have any announcements on local stuff,
yes,
that might be of interest to our listeners.
If Kevin has, we'll let you know what we heard because it was pretty.
Yeah, will you let us know? We can get you on the show as soon as that breaks and have you come on and talk about it.
That sounds great. I'd love to do it.
We appreciate it, Chris.
I'm not going to ask you about it, but I'm hoping that Jesse Young runs for something and gets another seat. That's what I'm shooting
you
for.
Are not even.
He's running for the Pierce County Charter Review Board, which isn't important. It's a down ballot race, but it is important. And I've got 3 candidates in that. Judson Willis, who is great. He's a local fire commissioner there in Pierce County. Gary Parker, who's a big time philanthropist, business owner. He owns Barbecue TU there in Gig Harbor. He's running for Pierce County Charter Review, and then Jesse is running for Pierce County Charter Review. And he and Michelle Caldier have buried the hatchet. So maybe next time I come on, we can have a conversation about that.
Let's please, because I've endorsed Michelle Caldier for her run for state senate.
Yeah.
And it's made me feel really dirty. So we'll talk about that later.
Sure. Absolutely, man.
All right, Chris. We appreciate you, man. We love you. Thanks for being a friend. Thanks for supporting the show. And thanks for
being you.
Acknowledging that you like us in public. We don't have a lot of people to do that anymore.
Thank you for
being you guys. Thanks for having me on.
You take care.
There goes Chris Gergen, Dark Horse Political, good friend of the show. And thanks to Chris for being with us tonight. I found his thoughts
on what?
On all of it, like really, really relevant. I think his interconnection to a lot of the background on candidates and all of that makes a lot of sense. You know what I mean? And it gives him a lot more credence. We can Yahoo about it all we want to, but his interior connections and his time in the arena, so to speak, give him a really different perspective than what we have.
I will say this, the one thing that I absolutely, he and I really are in lockstep on a lot of things, especially about our stance on abortion and stuff like that. And it makes me appreciate him more because it when you're having these political conversations, at least from my perspective, right? I think I'm the only one sitting here that's I want to make sure I say this right. Pro forced birthing. When you believe that once a woman spreads her legs, takes that bank deposit, and she can't give it back until 9 months later with interest, when you feel that way and you're in politics at all, like you take the bad end of a baseball bat frequently. And I am perfectly fine doing that. And he is as well. And the fact that he only takes on pro-life candidates, like to me, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. It takes the people who can to set a standard and then stick with it.
Yeah. Josh has sent over some other information, just other verification that the shooter in Minnesota, the accused shooter, has been taken into custody. CNN's finally reporting it as well. So it sounds like it's starting to get some mainstream media reporting. I haven't found any details about his apprehension yet, where they found him. I would agree with you guys. I'm surprised he's alive, to be honest with you.
I'm not. I meant that. I mean, like if you are a shooter and you go out and commit an assassination or a murder, and you guys may feel different. I don't know. You tell me. You're generally a coward, which means you don't have the courage to take your own life. You're going to put other people in danger. You're going to go do what you want to do, and then you're going to go hide.
I figured he would do suicide by cop. I figured he would just start.
He got into a shootout and fled. The cops showed up to the second location where the couple were both killed.
Right.
The cops showed up there, and as he was coming out the front door, the cops were pulling in, and he got into a gunfight with them and ran off. Well, at that point, man, if you're Mr., I'm doing the right thing, blah, 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 right? You're going to stand there and you're going to shoot it out, man. You stand there and shoot it out. Only a coward runs.
Yeah, well,
cowards run.
I always believe
that's why I assumed he was a Democrat.
I always believe if you're going to do the whole murder-suicide thing, do it backwards.
Right?
That's my motto.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that. We'll take a bumper break in just a minute. When we come back, I want to come back to this Israel thing really quick because I'm going to give a really controversial opinion in a moment.
Good. Well, I'm willing to bet I can counter it, so it'll be good.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that.
I don't know what it is, but
I'm not going to give you a heads up either.
It's okay. That's good.
Going to make it a surprise
That's
and
good.
keep you on your toes. It's why I'm here.
That's good.
All of us happy to be back in studio tonight. It's been a weird week. Thanks to Chris Gergen for joining us on the first hour. Also, Sean, you said in the chat that you were at the parade. Let me know if you'd be interested in coming on video just for a couple minutes. I have questions to ask from somebody who was really there. So if you're willing to come in on video,
I can answer your questions.
It'd be really cool to have you come on.
Goes into the vagina.
He did post a bunch of pictures on his social media.
No. I want to ask him questions.
Oh,
okay. I want to ask specific questions about turnout, about organization.
I want to know if those
experience.
fuckers marched in step, Sean. So you can let me know that one, okay?
Yeah, there's a lot of people sharing video that they're not in step,
I
but I
cannot
can't
tell you how fucking bothered by that I am. I mean, I'm angry about it, which is why I picked up the phone and called my son today. I'm like, what the fuck? And Gergen used the right phrase, right? It's a loss of the military bearing, if that is indeed correct. There's just no excuse for it. And what Hunter had explained to me, since the Army had instituted the DEI stuff, right? Drill and ceremonies became basically nobody cared, nobody did it. And so they never worked on it at boot camp.
Have you seen any current videos of the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier?
I've seen lots of videos of them, but nothing that would tell me that those they practice it.
No, I mean like currently.
Well, define current. I've seen a ton of videos.
6 months or whatever.
I mean, I wouldn't.
They seem. Know. All I'm saying is they seem pretty crisp and in step.
Well, that's a different group of guys, though, right? And women.
Well, just remember, the Army's not the most disciplined branch. I mean, they're not the Marines, they're not the Navy, barely the Coast Guard. All right, stick around. We'll take a break. When we come back, more of the show. Your comments welcome in the chat.
Kevin,
don't be a turd.
What blowing Space Force is like.
Outlaw Radio. We're back after this. Bumper break.
Are you ready to elevate your spirits? Look no further than Black Ring Spirits, your local craft distillery nestled in Town Square Mall. Indulge in the smooth richness of our handcrafted spirits, meticulously distilled to perfection. Whether you prefer the bold kick of our bourbon or the subtle sophistication of our gin, Black Ring Spirits has something for every palate. Visit us today at Town Square Mall and experience the essence of true craftsmanship. Black Ring Spirits, where passion meets perfection, unconventionally traditional.
Admin a la carte are specialized local experts committed to helping you run your small business. From general admin and sales support to marketing, digital media and technology to real estate and compliance. Admin a la carte's only goal is to take your business to the next level. Find out how Admin a la carte can elevate your business. Visit admin-alacarte.com for more information. That's admin-alacarte.com. Admin a la carte. Your business doesn't fit into a box. Why should you have to?
On a recent episode of the Outlaw Radio Network.
Some of our listeners even appreciated you dumbing it down for them. So, on behalf
Sometimes
of
I have to mansplain for people like. By the way, mansplaining is when men explain things to a woman in a condescending tone. I just mansplained.
That's the Outlaw Radio Network Sunday nights at their new time from 6 to 10.
This is Spike Cohen. This is Jesse Young.
I'm Brady Cruz, host of the Undivided Podcast.
And you're listening to
my friends on the Outlaw
Radio
Network.
I love that intro you did, Dennis. That one's great. Tranquility Base. We're in fucking trouble. Oh my God. So you guys aren't going to believe this, right? Like Kevin has walked away and I'm not going to say what he said, but if you could see the visual photograph that I have right now, where's the camera at? Can we tip the camera over there so that people could see how Kevin is bent over the bar right now with Lori behind him. And all I will say,
yeah, it's not a good look.
Thank God she brought Vaseline, folks, because I'm not sure we'd be seeing that smile on Kevin's face right now. That's not even a smile. I can't even look over there. I'm just going to tell you guys, I can't even describe the look on the grown man's face. Tom, can you tell me whether that's
if
ecstasy?
I hear someone say hamana, that's it.
Is it Dennis, that look, that I don't even know if that's a smile, a grin, or somebody who's into pain. But
yeah, that's a tough one.
It looks to me like somebody who enjoys S&M. I mean, I'll say that. I'll throw that out there. Oh, I didn't mean like Sean Mahood. I just meant S&M, like kinky sex shit. But here's what I will say: the look on Kevin's face, priceless. We couldn't catch a picture of it for you guys. It was over kind of quick. Kevin's he's a 1 minute man, but he appreciates our platitudes. So we'll leave it at that. So listen, we've got up here in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to talk about the No Kings protest. And I think that this is something that's actually really important for us to talk about. Because I really respected and appreciated that for the most part, those protests around the country, I think probably 90% of them were nice, peaceful. People came out, they held their signs up, they expressed themselves. And that's what the First Amendment to me is all about. And it's exactly what they had every right to do. I supported their right to do it, no matter what I thought of it as what they were saying, right? None of that matters. What matters is they had every right to do it. I did find it interesting because I don't think that's what it's going to be remembered for. I think that it's going to be remembered for things like
all the instances I've heard of, and I mean, of course, no one's going to talk about the good stuff.
Well,
I mean, all the instances I've heard of, it's been bad behavior.
But that was exactly my point. I think that's what it's going to be remembered for. And because I think, like I said, I think at least 90% of it was people being just very positive, and they were just, out in Key Peninsula where I live. There was one that was put together just by local people on the spur of the moment. And I know quite a few people who were MAGA Trump supporters that went down there and did a counter protest on the other side of the street. And it was very peaceful. They actually all shook hands and stuff like that. To me, look, that's beautiful stuff. You will always hear me say that we absolutely must have the differing views and opinions. That's what makes our republic work.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important. And unfortunately, I think that the events yesterday are going to be more known for the places where things went bad. There were a couple of people killed. There were a lot of injuries. There were some cops that were severely injured. Our friend Brandy Cruz was assaulted not once, but multiple times.
Right.
Yeah.
And those are the things. And I'm going to tell you guys, in my opinion, why that will always be the case with the people on the left. It will always be the case because they're completely unable or unwilling to disassociate themselves with groups like Antifa and BLM. And until they are able to disassociate and say, hey, I'm a Democrat, or I'm on the left, or whatever, or I'm a libertarian, whatever it is, however it is that they identify, right? Until they are able to say, this is me, this is not, they are going to continually be infiltrated by people who are there simply to create anarchy. And until they can do that, these types of displays are going to fall on deaf ears. And one overwhelming thing, more than anything else, is a singular result of yesterday. Do you know what that is, Tom?
Well, I'm not sure where you're going because I've got my own thoughts on
here's what it is.
Okay.
Trump's still your fucking president.
Oh, well,
what I'm saying is it didn't do a damn bit of good.
No.
Yesterday was going to be a fart in human history. Nobody will remember it in 2 weeks.
That's fair. So, yesterday, the idea of,
the sunburns some of those people got are going to last longer than the memory of it.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, so yesterday was supposed to be a pushback against authoritarianism.
Right. Yeah. Some authoritarianism that doesn't exist. I know.
That's not true.
Well, hang on.
Tom is speaking. Let Tom speak, Kevin.
Okay, so
you were over there getting a freaking enema.
Yeah, I agree. Push back against authoritarianism. Where were these protesters when there were mask mandates and vaccine mandates and the authoritarianism of
yes,
the past.
Shutting down free speech on the internet, for example. Yes,
how about
you're right. Keep going.
How about shutting down businesses?
Yes,
that's
absolutely. Tom, you're nailing it. Keep going.
Well, that's the conversation I want to have, though. People aren't upset about authoritarianism; they're fine with it.
Amen. It's just authoritarianism they agree with.
Well, people are devoted to their agenda.
Yep.
Right. And that's the problem.
Because you can suggest. I'll just say it. Anything that you think Trump has been authoritarian, because Kevin, you mumbled under your breath. You're like, oh, well, because I pointed out there hasn't been any authoritarianism.
Yes, there has.
No, I would challenge that. And here's why I would challenge it. Currently, yeah.
Okay.
That anything that anybody sitting here at this table would say, well, that's authoritarian. I would say either the president has the right to do it or he's been blocked by the courts. Now, prove me wrong.
Well, okay, hold on. So I wasn't talking about Trump specifically, but our government.
I think that's what the No Kings protest was
government, though, has been authoritarian as hell for a very long time.
I don't disagree with that. You're 100% right. But
when you said there was no authoritarianism, I wasn't talking about Trump specifically when I pushed back. I just meant in general that our government has been overreaching for some time. And
I totally agree.
A very long time.
Totally agree.
Here's the problem. I would agree with you that most of the protests were peaceful.
Yeah, I think
the ones in downtown Seattle, no issues. Downtown. Now the one where Brandy Cruz was at was effing ridiculous. LA got out of hand. But
some in Texas,
but most of the places around the country were vocal, loud.
Which they had every right to do.
Yeah. I think most of them played out really well. And I am surprised. Honestly, I'm surprised. I expected parts of Seattle to burn.
Me too.
I expected parts of Chicago to burn.
Me too.
I expected more of LA to burn. I just thought it was going to be bad with the ramp up we had. And at least in Seattle, they had been protesting since Tuesday. And so that
you'd personally seen that.
Yeah. And they had time to build up to that, so I thought it was going to be really bad. So kudos to the left. I would also agree with you that I don't think any of this is going to be long lasting.
Yeah.
Like there's no
meat on the table.
There's what did they accomplish? I guess is the question, right? Now they're going to say, hey, I did something. I raised my voice. I made noise, but in the end, I don't think anything got accomplished.
It was a feel-good moment, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that went can say, I was there. I did this. I spoke out. I exercised my First Amendment right.
I firmly believe that what we're going to be talking about is going to be.
I got a crush on Lori.
The midterms. You know what I mean? I think the midterms are what we're going to be talking about. That's when we're going to know if what happened. That's when we're going to know if what happened this weekend had any weight.
Well, I still want to understand. I still want to know. I mean, if we're going to protest something, then protest it, right? Protest authoritarianism. Protest the government. Period. Not who's in the government. I mean, if you're upset with Trump, you're upset with the government. So protest the government. Right.
But that's just it. That's just it. There would not have been a protest if Vance was president. There would not have been a protest if a Democrat was president. I don't like to talk about Trump derangement syndrome because I think it's overly used and it's kind of
it is overly used. I agree.
Kind of a stupid explanation.
I think it's overly used because it's.
But in this instance, I think it holds a little bit of credibility. There is so much dislike for Trump, especially out of those on the left, and especially on those in the younger generation on the left, that no matter what he did, he would have gotten pushback. But I firmly believe if Biden had bust out this 250-year anniversary parade for the U.S. Army, the left would have loved it and applauded him for it. And I think if Vance had done something like this, we wouldn't have the pushback. This is more a response to Trump, and I'm not saying it should or shouldn't be right. The people on the left are going to decide that, But this was more of a response to Trump than it was to the government, than it was to Republicans. This was about Trump.
I agree with you 100%, Kev.
Yeah.
And I'm going to prove to you in a minute when we're done with this segment, close to being done with it, how I can prove that you're correct. Go ahead. Sorry, Tom.
Oh, I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, if you're unhappy with the government right now, you shouldn't be any more unhappy with the government now than you should have been when Biden was in office.
Yes, you're correct.
The president changed, the government didn't. So people are aiming at the wrong thing. I think that's what the big problem is. It's the devotion to the agenda.
How do you feel about my synopsis that these will never go well and they will never be successful for the left until they are able to disassociate themselves with groups like Antifa and BLM?
You can say the same thing about extremism on the right.
But they're not out. No, people on the right are not out holding protests, shutting down cities.
No, that's true. I mean, people, the very, the very extreme right is, well, they're their own kind of weird, and that kind of weird tends to be mostly antisocial.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So can I ask you a question though, Paul? Because you said something that really struck me.
Okay.
People on the right.
I didn't mean to hit you.
No. People on the right are not protesting, shutting down cities. Should they be?
No.
I mean, let me ask the question.
Okay.
Because if protest is allowed per the Constitution, and if protest is an effective way to raise awareness and to make changes without resorting to violence and actually get some things potentially done, Republicans never rarely stage massive protests.
Let me give you a great example.
Should they?
It's pointless. And I think that for the most part, conservatives and Republicans know it. They've done it here in Washington State multiple times. They've done it down in Olympia at the Capitol, right? It has zero effect. The lawmakers simply lock the door and ignore them and go about their business. It does nothing. I see lots of people coming back, like they've had pro-Second Amendment ones. We'll use as an example down in Olympia. I see all these people tweeting, "I'm down here. Oh my gosh, I can't believe there's thousands of people here." Yeah, 2,000-3,000 out of 5 million. Like, those people sitting in those buildings do not give two shits what you have to say. Why? Because the Democrats are the party in power and have been as a supermajority for far too long to give two craps what anybody that disagrees with them thinks.
Yeah.
So, and I think that for the most part, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, they've learned that and they've known it for quite some time. So they're just like, yeah, it's pointless. So that's not where change is going to come from. And holding a protest where you shut down streets has a cause and effect, right? You might cause the ambulance with the man who had a heart attack to die because he's waiting in traffic that you blocked. Like, it serves no purpose. And I know the people that protest use the idea that, like, well, we need to make things hot and inconvenient for you so that you listen to us. No, it ain't going to make me believe what you believe. Nothing you do out there is going to make me believe what you believe. You want me to change my mind? Convince me with your words.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Better yet, convince me with your actions
and with the conversation.
Right.
Well, listen, the people that are
not a fucking tantrum.
Right.
The people that are politically active, though, don't buy into any of that. Because it is 100% my side versus your side.
It is
100%. It doesn't matter what we do. It matters who we are.
That is exactly what's wrong with two-party politics.
Well,
but there's no saying you wouldn't have that with three-party.
You have more of a conversation with three-party.
Yeah.
We don't know the answer to that yet, really, though, do we?
Look at Europe.
No, I'm not going to look at Europe, man. I appreciate where you're coming from, but politics here is
very different. It would be more diluted, I think, is what you're pointing to.
Right. It's going to be less polarized. You know, I mean, I'm not saying look at Europe as far as their policies. I'm saying look at Europe in the fact that they have multiple parties, and
party. Let's have a party.
So that multiple party system forces more conversation, not this polarized me versus you.
So I'm not going to disagree with your your point. What I'm trying to disagree with is that what we see out of Europe is a small majority, like 30%, 32, 33% of people suddenly rule the other 66%. Like what the small
Oh, you mean
group
like
of
here?
people. No.
Yeah. Yes.
No.
How many people?
I get the argument that you're trying to use. It just doesn't carry any weight for
No,
me.
but how? Just by the numbers, how many people identify as Democrats?
I don't know.
35, 40%.
46%, I think, is what I saw. I think it's 45%.
Okay,
or something
and of course
39
that's
for
regional.
Republicans.
Yeah,
nationwide.
Yeah, okay, right. But it's going to be, that's nationwide. It's going to have regional differences, right? Washington State is way more blue.
Yeah,
right.
Texas is way more red. Yeah,
right. So okay, 35, 40, 42%, whatever it is, they're speaking for. They're a minority speaking for a majority, and vice versa.
Well, we are a republic, remember?
Yeah.
What does a republic mean? What is that? How does our form of government work?
Yes, the idea of a constitutional republic is supposed to, protect the minority.
That's right.
I understand that.
But the way Europe does it, that's not the case. That's my point.
Right.
Well, and here's the deal, right? If you went to a multi-party system, like the one advantage Trump has right now is he can say, I want a plurality of the vote. And I want a plurality of the Electoral College. This was a decisive win. This was a mandate. If you have 3, 4, 5 candidates, you'll never have a mandate.
And to your point, which I agree with, Tom, you say, but then in order to get anything done, they have to cooperate, which I don't disagree with.
We don't have any cooperation now.
Correct. All I'm saying is that I'm not convinced that idea makes that difference. That's all I'm saying. Because I'm a firm believer. You guys have always heard me say this. It takes multiple viewpoints to make our republic work. And
wouldn't that support the idea of multiple parties?
The problem is it would take it's not something that's going to happen fast, right?
No.
So
it would take decades.
Right. And so if it happens slowly, the adjustments can come along with that.
Well,
and I just don't think that we're there yet.
The problem at the moment is
we might be closer than I'm aware of.
Yeah, no, we're not, because the problem at the moment is that the two-party system, they've put measures in place that will make it virtually impossible for a third party to ever get on the debate stage or be part of the conversation.
And to me, I blame the media for that more than I blame the politicians.
It's a bit of both.
Lila's being very, very spicy. How is it a mandate? Lila says he barely won.
Should we call it a woman date? Would that make you feel better?
This is another lie to allow Trump to do his fascist shit. Well, again,
point out something that he's done that's fascist. First, look up the definition. Let's make sure we agree on what a fascist is.
I can look at fascist for you if you'd like. Okay, hold on. Let me go to dictionary.com.
They should dick.
I know. I was thinking the exact same joke, by the way. By the way, my kids took me out while I look up what a fascist is. My kids took me out to dinner tonight.
Oh, good.
And one of the things on the menu reminded me of Tom. It was crap. What is that? What's that pasta?
Golden showers?
No, I gotta go look at their menu now. Hold on.
Wow.
I only say that joke always comes up because Tom always talks about gold is the color of the libertarians, man. And there's some of them libertarians are a little bit kinky.
How do you
some
know
are a little
that?
out there.
How do you know that?
I listen to you guys talk about it. Well, not you personally. But.
Okay. Trying to find the menu item that.
You hold it.
Oh yeah. You ready, Tom?
Okay.
Picada.
What?
Picada. Picada. Picada.
Oh.
All right. So the definition
times
the definition of the word fascist.
When I just fucking hate you too.
Here's what a fascist is.
Now would be one of them.
I'm sorry, Tom. Let's keep it going.
I am Cornelio.
Picada.
Some tippy for my bunghole.
Picada. A fascist.
Twat.
A fascist is a person who is dictatorial or has extreme right-wing views. also someone who believes or sympathizes in fascism or is a member of a fascist movement or party. So essentially, according to dictionary.com, it's a person who is dictatorial or has extreme right-wing views. So let's break this down. Does he have extreme right-wing views? I could understand the argument. I'm not sure if I agree, but I can understand the argument.
Well, then you'd have to define what a extreme.
Well, yeah, then it becomes opinion,
view.
right? Then
Yeah.
it because extreme is in and of itself an opinion.
Right.
I would not think that pro-choice is extreme, but I could see that people on the left would be like, "Oh, that's an extreme viewpoint," right? So I think that's all.
You mean
opinion.
pro-life?
What?
Pro-life
Or
not-
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, anti-abortion, right? I'm 100% anti-abortion. Okay.
But Trump is not.
But I'm
100% anti-abortion.
But what I'm saying is that would be, I'm using the example, right?
Okay.
How one side would see that as reasonable, the other side would say, well, that's extreme. So we can't do it. Now, is he dictatorial? That's the other half of this definition, right? The other half, all opinion. So let's evaluate what a dictator does. And I think the left has a little bit of an argument here, right? Because Trump has circumvented Congress and a lot of what he's attempted to do, both with Doge and the executive orders and all of that stuff. So there is a end around Congress that he's done since he took office in January. Does that make him a dictator? That's a bit of a stretch, but I can understand the argument, right? When you look at what is normal in this country, what is expected in this country for a president to do in their first 100 days is to do what? Is to roll out legislation. It's to pass bills. It's not to executive order everything to death.
But that's where we've gotten to historically over time.
Yeah.
That it is morphed into that. It's gotten more and more and more with each president. Now, if you want to
it's
make
dramatically more with Trump, though.
Well,
in his first 100 days.
Hold it. I mean, if we're going to, yes, Trump came out with a whole pile of executive orders, hard charging. But I mean, if we're talking about dictatorship and that being dictatorship, let's talk about the Biden White House and the use of AutoPen.
You're getting there. You're literally already touching on the counter.
Right. So I mean, let's go ahead and talk about how the government hasn't changed at all. It's still an authoritarian mess.
Hold on. I don't want to get into whataboutism, Tom, because that's what the left does.
That's not whataboutism.
It is. What about Joe Biden's AutoPen? And I think that's a really valid conversation to have, right?
Right. So what I'm saying is the government hasn't changed. The authoritarianism is still there.
Well, so let's.
But hold on. Let me respond to that real quick.
The only thing that's changed is the agenda.
But here's the problem, Tom.
And the
you're right.
progressive left is upset about the current agenda,
Right.
so they set shit on fire.
Right. But here's the problem. Okay. You're absolutely correct. Nothing is changed between two different. What is this? Hold on. Nothing has changed between the parties. They are what they are. They just have different agendas. But that fact is lost in the sense that people refuse to see facts.
People
see
they're
people see what they want to see. So Lilat, for example, is not going to have the same level of issues with things that Biden has done because one, Biden's not Trump, and Trump is detested, especially by those on the left. And two, what Biden did was at least probably, I'm assuming, Lilat, don't scream at me if I'm wrong, but Biden would be closer to the ideal of what they want to see from the left than what Trump is doing.
So they're more willing to accept it and bend their own definitions.
Or at least be less angsty, screamy, angry about it, right?
So I think the issue of executive orders, which is the one thing that, in my opinion, could be used to suggest Trump was dictatorial, right? But when you look at the data, which I'm hoping that's what Lori handed you.
That's what I handed over.
It falls flat on its face.
Well, I don't know. I don't see.
So Trump's at 162 in his second term.
Oh, is he?
Mhm.
Biden did 162 in his entire 4 years, right? Which if you look at just those numbers, you go, oh my God.
He'd have done more if he could have stayed awake.
Did you look at Bill Clinton?
Yeah, Bill Clinton had like 480 or something like that.
Okay, but it's listen, again, but that's not taking in.
Oh, sorry, 364.
That's still not an accurate measure. Okay. Why do I say that? Harry Truman did 907. Franklin Roosevelt 3,726. You see where we're going with this?
Well, yeah, but he also had what 12, 16 years?
Almost 4,000. Okay, compared to 162. My point is people go and they look at this and they look for information and then they cherry pick it so that they can, and that's what Lila does, right? Just same crap Haldy does, right? Same stuff. People on the extreme right that are trying to make a case for I'm right and you're wrong. They'll go and they'll cherry pick information until they get the data that fits their narrative, and then they'll espouse how righteous and virtuous they are because they were right.
I do that in dating.
Well, I mean, you can work on
Oh
that.
my
brother.
goodness.
You can work on that. Calvin Coolidge had 1,200. Herbert Hoover had 1,000. Woodrow Wilson 1,800. Teddy Roosevelt, the Rough Rider dude, he had over 1,000.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying,
And
when
he had 2 terms.
Ulysses,
full
Ulysses S. Grant 217. So, and even we can go all the way back, right? George Washington only had 8.
Yep.
So it seems to have gone down, if anything, since World War II, right? So we've got presidents doing less and less. Now maybe it's starting to creep back up or whatever, but and listen, you cannot deny that when the opposition party, in this case the Democrats, when Trump does something that they don't like, what do? They judge pick. They go looking for a judge in a district that is sympathetic to whatever there is, and they walk into them, they make their case, and they get an order, which is why all this shit's making it up to the Supreme Court, because the court's like, Jesus Christ, you guys can't play like adults. Right. So now you're going to have to leave it to us. And now we have to do more work because you fuckers can't decide what's right, because too many of you are injecting your own politics into it. Right.
But you don't think that the Supreme Court's going to inject their own politics into it? I mean, Amy Coney Barrett and
who's being crucified by the right now.
No, hold on.
Because they're saying that she doesn't vote to the right enough for them.
But I'm not knocking her. I'm just saying that every judge has what you would call politics. Right. What I call it is their interpretation.
Every judge, the judges on the Supreme Court have their politics.
Yeah. So,
guess what? There's about, I would say 3 of them at least on the Supreme Court right now that you cannot anticipate their votes. 3 of them that try to live up to the values.
Roberts, Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh.
I wouldn't say Kavanaugh. He still leans to the right.
Who's the other one you can't?
It's a female on the left.
Really?
Yeah, Brown.
No, definitely not Ketanji. Sonia Sotomayor. She. Those 3 judges are the closest to being as neutral as you can be and be a judge on the Supreme Court.
No.
Ketanji Brown. No, she's as predictable as the tides.
Oh, I've read very little about.
And Roberts as the head of the Supreme Court, not predictable whatsoever.
No, he's cast some decisions, been the tiebreaker
that have shocked the hell out of people,
like with Obamacare.
Yeah, so I will tell you, man, I put a great deal of faith in the Supreme Court. I'm not going to sit here and say they're perfect. Nobody is, but they are more equitable and more fair and more righteous than any other court in this country. But like I said, there's 3 on each side that how they're going to vote with every damn thing that comes in front of them, for sure, without a doubt. But the others, they really try to live up to their expectations. They've made decisions I didn't like. I mean, it is what it is, and you can't go through life like Lila, where you blame everyone else for every problem that you have in your life. You can't blame a whole political line of thinking for everything that you see wrong with your country. You have to take some accountability for the decisions that you've made yourself, for the decisions that people that you've supported have made. Like half of the struggle in this world, man, is just being able to look at yourself in the mirror and realize you're not the smartest person. Everything that you think isn't right, and you're not always on the winning side, right? I mean, I will say this. Look, we've all had bad days, right? You have bad days, right, Kevin? Yeah. Laura, you've had terrible days too. We've all had bad days.
Sure.
And you know what's happened? The same thing has happened in every single case. We woke up the next morning.
Yep.
And we were still alive, and we still had to go about it. And we still got to put our best foot forward. You know, it is a complete waste of a life to spend your time complaining about everything. You want to work to change something? Great. Work to change it, man. Hold your head high. Do the best. I work to change abortion laws by having conversations with people. I don't go out and bomb the damn clinic.
Yeah.
You know, though I think the worst thing I've ever said about that entire issue was to you, Kevin, which I don't apologize for, but we had a debate one night on air about the pictures of the dismembered children's bodies that they hold out in front. You know, we have a vastly different opinion on that topic.
We do,
and both of us had valid points, in my opinion.
Yeah,
you know, and so
see, here's the difference, Paul. You and I can have a conversation, disagree.
I know,
and still have a conversation
about that.
You know what I mean? Like we
Yes.
can have a conversation and disagree.
Yes.
It doesn't have to turn into mudslinging and name calling and insulting and berating and belittling, right?
No, that's just for Madden, the football game.
But I fuck off. But I you know, when we have a conversation with the left, you know, like Lila's a great example. Like all Lila has done tonight has just been really salty and told us we're stupid, read a book, we don't know what we're talking about. We blame immigrants. We're I mean, it's just it's caustic and angry. Like you can't just have a disagreement. It has to be abrasive, name calling.
There's a
rudeness,
difference,
you know.
Yeah. So that's not conversation though, and I mean,
no, that's my point.
Right, conversation is how things get done, but so few of us actually have conversation. People mistake the idea of conversation for I'm going to change your mind.
Yeah.
And
I was going to suggest, by the way, because we were talking about, you know, the No King's Day stuff, right? I want to make sure that if you were there yesterday, first of all, I tip my hat to you. If you were one of the few people that ended up getting injured, please put some ice on it. I couldn't help it.
Really. No, I'm totally fine with people protesting. Like I like we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Most of the protests were fine. Most of them does not resort to violence.
And I do tip my hat
that
to them.
Yeah,
For going
especially-
out there and having peaceful protests, I do. I tip my hat to them.
And the amount of time and energy that was spent rallying this cause and getting people behind it, and the number of people that came out. We've always talked about the risk of Antifa folks intermingling and making stuff worse. We didn't see a lot of that. Not that it didn't happen, but not nearly as widely kind of spread as I expected it to. God bless them for protesting. Like I totally no, I don't like what they did to my building in Seattle. I mean, that thing's been spray painted awful.
Well, that's not protest. That's vandalism and destruction.
Well, and let me throw a couple of points out here.
Yes.
First one, you guys have seen all over the news about how the United States Marines have detained their first person ever. Did you guys see that footage?
I saw that. I saw
a headline.
So what's really interesting, and what the left is throwing a conniption fit about, is that they're saying, and the guy they detained was a veteran on his way to the VA center.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a normal guy, you hear that and you're like, those motherfuckers, right? Guess what the caveat to the whole thing is?
What's that?
That when they interviewed the Marine, the guy that got detained by the Marines, yeah, he's a veteran. Couldn't hear their commands because he had his headphones in listening to music.
Oh.
And he's like, oh shit, man, that's my bad. I couldn't hear anything you guys were saying. I wasn't even paying attention. I was looking at the ground and I went to go walking in. He's like, I had no clue. And guess what happened? They detained him and they talked for like 30 seconds and then they let him go.
Yeah. Can I read this to you? This is from KTLA in Los Angeles.
Is this on that incident?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
It says hours after their anticipated arrival in Los Angeles, U.S. Marines were seen detaining a man next to the federal building in Westwood on Friday. According to the AP, the man, self-identified as Army veteran Marcos Liao, was wearing headphones when he walked into the guarded property, not hearing the troops' commands. The former Army combat engineer said he was on his way to a Veterans Affairs when he noticed the Marines telling him to stop. Quote, "Of course I complied when I crossed the first checkpoint. They told me to get on the ground. This is weird," Leo said about the encounter. "I became a U.S. citizen actually through the military." He noted that while what happened was annoying, he understood why he was detained, remained compliant, and was released without any problems. "There was nothing wrong. It's just a procedure," he said. "This is the federal building, so I understand that anything that happens here can actually get federal accusations." So again, to put this into full scope, the Marines can be activated at any time, anywhere in the country by the president to protect federal property.
Yes.
Which is where they were at, which is the VA Medical Center, which is, I don't know why I'd know this. It's not like I work for the VA, federal property. So the idea that somehow the Marines were out of line when this guy waltzed across the checkpoint because he had his headphones on, going onto federal property that he wasn't allowed to enter, what were they supposed to do? Secondly, they didn't gang tackle him and beat the crap out of him and tase him and arrest him and hogswoggle him. They stopped him, asked him some questions, realized he made a mistake and didn't know any better, and sent him on his way. Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, is a far better process that we've seen out of some state or city or county police jurisdictions.
Well, and keep in mind why those federal troops were called in order to free up National Guard and police units for other locations so that they didn't have to protect those federal buildings.
I have no issue with the Marines being called up for federal property.
A lot of people on the left do, which surprises me because they're screaming about posse comitatus, right?
Which doesn't apply.
And it doesn't apply, right? Because it only applies to active duty military personnel being used in a domestic situation. But even at that, they can still be used in a domestic. If there is a riot, federal troops can be used. I posted the entire legal thread about posse comitatus, when it can be applied and when it doesn't. Yeah. Okay. And those, he could call out the active duty U.S. Army to do anything that he truly needs if he deems it a national emergency. And I want to remind people on the left, okay, these are two things that I'm going to point out that proves that your entire protest yesterday was based out of pure ignorance, because none of you did research and none of you knew any better. Okay. But okay, you know what? That's a bit heavy language. Let me take a step back. Do you guys believe that a main onus of the protests for No King's Day, that it was based on immigration issues because of what was going on with ICE? Or am I mistaken? Because I believe that a huge percentage of what was happening yesterday was because of the ICE raids.
I would say 50-50.
Yeah.
I think the ICE stuff ratcheted it up. Well, hold on. I think the ICE stuff ratcheted it up and gave a lot more noise to it. But this No Kings movement was moving way before the most recent.
I don't know. I hadn't heard about it until a week ago. So.
But they've been organizing for a little bit. Probably. And the idea of No Kings
it's
was
Indivisible that it was organizing it. And we remember Indivisible, right?
Yeah.
Our good friend Mr. Fuck This Place, who left during election night.
Hi, Don, miss you.
Yeah. So the point, what Tom, what was your thought? Was the No King, now don't listen to what these two said. I want to know your opinion.
Don't listen to me, I'm
right. Do you believe that a larger percentage, or do you believe like these lemmings do that it was 50-50? Stop, leave him alone. Leave him alone.
I predict his
answer?
answer?
Let him answer himself. Let him.
We're not lemmings. Bite your tongue.
Can I predict
it? Kevin, bite your tongue.
Here's what he's going to say.
Go ahead and predict.
This is what happens when you have two parties and they're not gold, and they're one just like the other, and
Tom,
the right is like the left. And blah, blah, blah.
You are allowed to
back.
have your opinion.
I do. Yeah. I fit it in once in a while.
Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah.
Go, Tom.
If he says it, no, so help me God.
No. So the whole No Kings thing started, like Kevin had said a while ago, right? It was that conversation about right after Trump said he'd be dictator for a day.
That's when that started, because that was back during the election season.
Right. I mean, I think that's when all this stuff really kind of got going.
And the meme.
And the meme. And then you add the ICE stuff to it now. And the ICE raids are such a focus, at the moment that it's all just kind of become a convoluted mess. But I don't think the people that are protesting right now have the critical thinking skills to sort all of these different issues out. They just kind of lump it all into one big pot and go, I'm pissed off.
Okay,
it's Trump's fault.
Okay, well then let me.
Right,
okay.
I mean, they blame Trump when they should be saying it's the government's
Well,
fault.
here's what I'm going to put out.
Right, did that. I want to blame Biden the whole time.
I want to remind our friends on the left who were screaming, first of all, about the United States active duty military being called up, and about how that's an act of a dictator, right? Because I've seen all these people were out there screaming at the top of their lungs, "You military folks, you took an oath and you're breaking your oath," yada yada yada. Look, folks. Oh, did you guys see the young lady in her military uniform in LA? she did the video.
No.
It went viral, and her video
Protesting.
was she was like, you're violating your oath, yada yada yada, right? Well, here's some funny thing. If you guys have seen that video, and you can look it up, it's out there. She's been out of the Army for 5 years. She just threw her old uniform on.
Oh,
Thank God she can still fit into that old uniform.
And well, there's more to it than that. Clearly she didn't study any of the laws surrounding this.
Yep.
But I would like to point out that everybody's favorite Democratic president, besides Barack Obama, would be probably Bill Clinton.
Yep.
Who did a good job economically, not so good internationally. But
Or under the
I just
desk.
want to point out to everybody, for those that don't remember, he actually called in active duty troops from Fort Hood that engaged in combat operations against United States citizens. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Lori probably does. She's shaking her head. Yeah, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Do you know what I'm talking about, Tom?
I'm trying to remember.
Trying to remember? Kevin?
No.
Waco.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So your favorite tip to the left guy, Clinton.
Was that Army?
Oh, yes.
I thought that was FBI.
The
No.
FBI started it. Army finished it, literally. Yeah, they brought in an M88, which is a tank recovery, heavy assault tank recovery units designed to go into combat and pull a tank that's damaged out of a bad situation. Heavily armored. They basically used it to put incendiary grenades, flashbangs, stuff like that into the building. And as soon as they did it, it lit off like a Roman candle.
Well, yeah, lit off all the tear gas because tear gas is flammable.
It lit off everything, and it just right is bad juju. Lots of barbecue that day. The point was,
It's like a powder bomb.
so that was that time. Now since while we're talking about President Clinton, let's bring up federal agents armed with MP5 machine guns on television live, removing illegal aliens from the United States. Do you guys remember that? Here's a hint. His name is Elon. Maybe it was Elian Gonzalez, the little kid
Yeah, Elian
in the closet.
Gonzalez,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, let's take it a step further.
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
Right? It's amazing the stuff that gets signed into law by President Bill Clinton on September 30th, 1996. And Kevin, this goes to something that you complained about last week. And I didn't have this information in front of me.
Okay.
If I had, I would have brought it up, but I did not. What is your biggest issue that you made very clear that you had with these folks being removed the way they are? You said that it was they were not getting due process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so September of 1996,
I know where this is
Illegal
going.
Immigrant Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act allows deportation without a judicial hearing through a process called expedited removal. 100% true.
Mhm.
Once you come into the country and you've been issued your order of removal, that's it. You're gone. You don't get to. There's no more process. Your process is over.
Or if your visitor visa has expired.
Correct.
And who signed that, by the way?
Bill Clinton.
Bill
There you go.
Clinton.
Yep.
1996.
Yeah.
And I would invite all of you folks to look it up. And again, this is the problem with the fucking internet, right?
Mhm.
And more importantly, it's what's wrong with social media and people wanting to get their daily kick of endorphins out of it because and there's another word. There's another thing people
Dopamine.
Dopamine. Thank you. Yeah, that's it. They look for that dopamine hit, right? So they go looking for whatever they can find, said by whomever, that supports their vision of what their belief is, right? It supports their narrative, you know? So Holly goes out there and she says, I hate Donald Trump. I hate these people. She goes through TikTok and she finds a video where somebody talks about military personnel violating their oaths and she goes with it. Just goes with it, just runs with it. No research, doesn't stop to check and see if it's true, doesn't stop to see if it's legit, doesn't look to see if there's any laws about it one way or another. It's just, nope, she's heard it, somebody said it, therefore it's true, and I'm going to go with it, right? And that's the goddamn problem. That's the people are worried on social media about whether or not you're talking about a medication for COVID and they'll cut you off for that, but yet you can go out there all day long and accuse United States Marines of violating their oaths. Right? We have a warped sense of reality.
Yes.
We as a culture, as a people right now, right? And now at the same time, it's why we can't get into this squabble over social media about silencing people. We can't have the government telling social media what they can suppress and not suppress. They can't shouldn't suppress anything.
Correct.
Just nothing, right? It is up to us as responsible American citizens to find out if what we are reading is true or not. Now, that
Paul,
sucks because most people won't bother to do that. But go ahead.
Does that mean we should abolish the FCC?
Yes, I think in a lot of ways, yeah. I do not approve of 99% of the shit that the FCC does.
Okay.
And Tom's golden side is showing up.
Okay. Yeah.
I just want to hear more about this deregulation.
It is one of the things that I agree with them on that issue on deregulation. I don't think the FCC's job is to promote certain things not being said on radio waves and airwaves and television waves.
So you could say that the
between communities.
FCC is government censorship
to some degree.
Okay.
Not deep in here.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's not deep. That's all he said. He says the same stuff every show.
Want to hear a quick joke really quick? Here's a quick joke somebody posted.
Joke.
Here's a quick joke somebody posted on Facebook. Khomeini calls Trump and says, I had a dream last night that all of New York was in ruins and Iranian flags were flying everywhere. Trump replies, strange. I dreamed that all of Tehran was thriving, full of high tech and billboards. What do the billboards say? Said Khomeini. Trump says, you think I know how to speak Hebrew? Oh. Anyway, I like that. That was good.
Damn.
And Tia didn't like the fact that I said that she could still fit into her uniform. Look, if you can still fit in your military uniform 5 years after you get out of service, that's,
I sure as the hell couldn't.
That's a plus.
Amazing.
I wasn't knocking her, and it wasn't a woman comment. It was a 5 years after service. Most people can't fit in their uniforms anymore.
I love you, Kevin, but the filter in your brain when you should or shouldn't say something with regards to any woman,
why
it
would I
malfunctions
throttle
all the
myself
fucking
down?
time.
If a woman doesn't appreciate all of this, then she doesn't get any of this.
He said all of this.
All of this. Okay?
Including the pads on your back.
Well, those pads are helping a little bit,
Are
but they're
they?
making me tired.
What'd you get them? Did you get them salon paws or what'd you
Yeah.
get? Yeah,
Salon paws, yeah.
They're not bad.
Yeah.
Considering
Because
the
everything
They're
else,
making me tired as hell. I might leave.
everything
before the
else is
third hour.
NSAID. All
Yeah,
the creams and everything have NSAID.
I might ditch out before the third hour. Let you
Yeah,
guys do the third hour on your own.
the salon paws is full of female hormones, and it helps a lot. You can tell. I mean, look at him.
I hate you.
He's just what?
Hope you die. in a
What? I
fire.
can't tell the truth now. You're my government's
Censor?
I hope you die in a fire.
Such hostility.
Comments in chat, by the way.
I offered him some cannabis earlier, and he didn't take me up on that.
Nancy said that's
could
why
have
you're
some of
single,
my-
Kevin.
you could have
Yes,
some of my
Nancy.
Kratom,
Nancy, the reason I'm single is because you're not here, and we can't, relive that magical night. Tom is so happy to hear about it.
Relive that magical night.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that girl got threatened. I don't know. I don't know how magical
Yeah.
it was.
Yeah. Not by Kevin. but-
Chambers.
By the way, Margie,
What am I gonna
thank
do
you
with
for
you?
serving.
Thank you for serving, Margie.
Margie. Yeah, she's a vet. Thank you, dude.
Nancy, thank you for serving me.
Oh my gosh.
How you doing, baby? All right.
Nancy was on a speedway this weekend.
Yeah,
It looked really
saw
cool.
that
She
after
had
the
me on a
fact.
speedway when she was.
Oh,
Oh,
my
she did.
God.
How
Kevin, do you
fast?
know-
How fast can we go, Auntie Nancy?
I hate to say this, Nancy, but Kevin walked with a limp for a week after you left.
I'm gonna have to stab both of you with scissors now.
I didn't say anything.
I'm
Tom.
laughing
Nancy was
because I know
mean.
it's not true.
Nancy was like, pedal to the metal. Pedal to the metal, K-Dog. Let's do this.
I'm sorry. She said something while she was here, and I just can't. She was like, I was just wondering about Kevin. I was like, oh, what do you want to know about Kevin? She was just like,
Whatever.
Thank you, Corey. Teachers Union President Randy Weingarten resigned from the DNC.
I wonder why.
Oh.
I mean, is that because they're too left or because they're not left enough? You know what I mean? Like we saw this with who was the other person that just left the party? We talked about last week on the show. The former Biden press secretary.
that was that's really interesting.
Jean-Pierre.
Yeah,
Yeah, but so she leaves the DNC. So my initial thought was, what is she going moderate or but
She's trying to
Promote
push
a
her-
book.
Yeah, she's trying to promote herself as moderate and
Yeah, I just-
independent.
But I wonder how many these people leaving the Democratic Party right now are leaving because they want to go more left, not less left.
I
You
know.
what I mean?
Or they're
I think that's
joining Andrew Yang's party forward or whatever.
Yeah, the
Go
Forward Party.
The Forward Party.
I actually, that's a man I have a great deal of respect for.
Who?
Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I
don't agree with him. Yeah.
I'm there with you. But man, if the
just gonna
guy
say,
could just,
he wants to do a UBI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that won't work.
Well, it's
exactly.
interesting.
There's not enough money.
Now it's interesting that you guys say that, because when you look at the figures that he put out, it does work according to the numbers he put out.
That's because they're pretend statistics.
Well, hold on. But
You-
the
you were
numbers
just talking about cherry
But the
picking.
numbers that he put out show that it's not as much. You can't do as much money as he wanted to do for the universal basic income. Like you could do $600-700 a month and you would be solid. But as soon as you start getting into that realm that they want to do, which is I think it was like 1,000 or 1,500 a month, it was like completely insolvent. Like there's no way you could do it. It was
Yeah.
like it was like way too high.
I'm sorry. Washington Cares, anyone?
Well, and
UBI is never going to work.
Well, it won't
because
work.
if you
You're
give
right.
people $700 extra bucks a month, guess what the landlords are going to say?
They're going to find a way to raise that rent. Yeah.
$700 because now I know you've got an extra $700 of disposable income. We have a housing shortage, so if you want to rent this house, that extra $700 you're getting from the federal government is going to come over to us and rent.
I think only
and you're not
people
going
that
to
are
come
running
ahead.
a trust fund would do something like that.
Agenda
I did not do that. In
2030.
fact, I charged less in the trust fund house.
Why are
than
you
I
getting
could've
so
charged.
defensive?
Because you're a dick.
What are you-
That's why.
What are you worried about, dude?
Agenda 2030 is why UBI is part of a push.
I have heard of Agenda 2030. Lori, can you
Mhm.
fill me in on it? I'm not intimately familiar with it.
It's a global
Is it a UN
program.
deal?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's through the UN. It's a global program to have everybody kind of on the same level.
Communism.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, worldwide communism.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Am I using the wrong word? Sorry. Lila was making it very clear that I did not know what communism was. I'm pretty sure I know all I needed to know about communism because my ass watched that movie The Day After Tomorrow when I was in the 80s, and that shit scared the hell out of me. At that moment, I knew everything I needed to know. They might nuke us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, you just need to get used to the agendas.
No.
Because Republicans had, what was their agenda, 2025 or whatever it was?
I agree with maybe agendas Democrat and Republican within our own country. I do not agree with an international body
Well,
that
hold on.
nobody really
elected?
controls.
I'm not
Yeah, they're
suggesting
not
it's
elected.
right or that I
Uh-huh.
support that. What I'm saying is you need to
Well,
get
what
used
are
to
you
agendas
suggesting?
because that's going to be the thing. You have a party that comes in, does what they want to do, gets everything set up the way they want. The other party then has to proclaim this as now we have to undo it all, and that's going to be their new agenda.
Mhm.
And after 2030, the Republicans are going to come out with their own agenda, 2036, which is to undo the UN's and the DNC's complicit actions together. And then the DNC will come out with agenda 2042. It's just going to be the thing now for a while.
Gosh, you know what? I completely forgot.
Until we get an Obama, a Reagan,
No.
a Kennedy. I'm not talking party, but I'm talking somebody who somehow can unify some people together
Kevin.
to bridge a little bit of that gap. Until we
Kevin.
find that, this is gonna
Kennedy
be
was
ongoing.
shot. Reagan was not
Kennedy
there
was killed
during
by-
his second term, and Barack Obama
Greatest
played to-
president of our
played to
lifetime.
his base.
That's a pipe
base.
dream.
What is it? A pipe dream?
It's a pipe dream.
Yes.
It's
You don't
never
think that
gonna
there will
happen.
be some unifying
Some
president to
pipes
come
have
along?
crack in it.
We're going to have a civil war before we have a unifier like one of those
Really?
people.
I would let me add to what he's saying. In fact, I think that it'll be after something akin to that before we can have a unifier come along.
Yep.
Like we're gonna have to
it's
hit the
gonna get
precipice.
much worse.
Yeah, whether it's a natural
before it
disaster
can get better.
or a civil war or maybe even a full blown war with other countries against the United States.
Why do you want a unifier? To be totally honest.
Yeah, great question.
I'm not in favor of all the, divide that we have now.
Yeah.
But I think that we need balance. I don't
A
think
balance,
we
100%.
I
Agreed.
don't think we need a unifier because that's the most
mhm.
dangerous part.
Well, and again,
Because then it falls into hero worship.
if you're not
Well,
wrong, but here's what I will say. After something has pushed us as a culture and as a people over the precipice, right?
Right.
Something really bad happens.
Yeah.
I do believe that at that point, that's when the floor will be ready for a unifier, but that won't last that long. Like how long after 9/11 were we unified as a nation? 6
2
months?
weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
It wasn't long.
Well, I think if we have a unifier, it would have to be somebody moderate. It would have to be somebody who's in the middle ground that's able to bring some of the left to them and some of the right to them. It would have to be somebody.
So it'll
like,
be a
you're not gonna
libertarian
get-
leadership. So you're not going to see any of that for 50 years.
No, I think it's going to happen sooner than you think it will. I think there's a
Come on, Kevin, complete a sentence.
there's a
It's easy.
cult there's a cult of personality at play here, right?
Okay.
So you have to have the right candidate.
There's multiple.
Can I finish? Let me finish.
Okay.
You have to have the right. You have to have the right.
Okay.
The right person, which is not about party and not about platform. You have to have the right person. Obama was in many ways at that time the right person because he wasn't moderate at all.
No, he wasn't.
But because of his demeanor, his ability to connect, his good oral skills,
His snark was amazing. I will say that.
yeah, he was able to pull some people together that he
was
wouldn't
a
have normally been able to.
Mhm.
Reagan, the exact same thing. Reagan wasn't moderate; he was uber conservative,
Mhm.
but he was able to unify people, including a lot of Democrats, and pull them in because he could connect with them. That's what this country's going to have to find. And I think once the right personality shows up, it's not going to matter which party. But there'll be a personality that shows up that pulls people into the center at least for 4 or 8 years.
See, I think the problem right now is there's too many personalities,
But none of them are the right one.
and they're all too polar.
Yeah.
So
Amy Poehler? Sorry.
Yeah.
Listen, AOC is your next president.
No, she's
way in
not.
hell.
AOC is your next president. Donald Trump will run his term.
I will buy you,
you-
a poster of AOC, okay?
You
I'll find
beautiful
one in a
people
bikini
know that
so you
Kevin
have it.
says that just to get you guys right.
No, I don't.
Yeah,
There
because
is no way in hell.
there's
He wants it for his wall. And
Can I tell you why?
if Kevin
it's time
truly
for a bumper break,
if
by the
Kevin
way.
truly believed that AOC was going to be the next president, okay, if he truly believed that,
Mhm.
he'd be taking actions now,
like what,
to ensure that it would happen. Like you'd be out there promoting her
No,
everywhere.
I'm
You'd
not.
be like, you're like
I-
AOC for the Democratic nomination. Blah 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 blah.
If I could put $100 down right now on AOC to be the next president,
I'm
after
sure
Trump,
somebody will take that bet.
I
I'll
will
take
put
it right now. Give
Well,
me
what are the
$100.
odds, though?
I'll give you 2-to-1 odds.
I want better than
100 bucks.
2-to-1 odds. Vegas would give me more than 2-to-1 odds.
I'm not Vegas.
I'm just telling you. Listen,
He
I'm
just
gonna,
wanna
I'm gonna,
bet.
He doesn't want to
we're
bet.
gonna take a bumper
Yeah,
break.
so he doesn't really believe it.
But as we get ready for a bumper break, I'm going to tell you why.
I don't.
Because
I don't know what he
at the end of Trump's 4 years, people will just be tired of him again, like they were at the end of his first 4 years where they put Biden in. People are
God,
going to
I love
vote
you.
for
It's so
anybody
naive.
who's a. I'm not.
You are because
People
you
are
can't
gonna-
say what happens
Yes,
over the next.
yes, I totally can. Because regardless of how well Trump does or doesn't do as president, the fact he won't shut up will turn people away from him.
Oh, that's for sure
Okay.
true. It will.
So
you know,
at
maybe
the
it doesn't
end
or
of the-
so.
At the end of the 4 years, there will be enough people that are tired of the noise that will vote for anybody not connected with this administration, the exact same way that people weren't going to vote for anybody connected for the Biden administration.
Well, guess
Hey,
what? If
Kevin.
Trump becomes a wartime president, everything changes.
Well, Trump, at the end of the 4 years, Trump can't run again. Vance
What?
runs and loses, and AOC is the only Democrat that checks all their boxes. I'm not saying I support her, but she's the only one that checks all their boxes. All the Democrat Party cares about is character politics.
Kevin.
Oh, she's a minority. Check. She's young. Check. She's a girl. Check. She's
Kevin,
an
I don't know.
attractive
Hold on.
girl.
Let's ask Lila.
Check.
Is AOC a girl?
So I'm just yeah.
Kevin, you have a problem here.
What's that?
Testosterone.
Generalization.
One, it's generalization.
Mm-hmm.
Two, that's an old argument. Three, the DNC is tanking in the polls.
Yes.
Four,
They're imploding.
Trump is making all kinds of noise right now, right?
Yeah.
Go Tom.
What do you think the DNC's been doing for the past 4 years? They're awful.
Yeah, I know.
Let my people go.
But
Play
what
that
is-
fucking video.
I can't
man.
play that video. I can't
that's
figure out
the
how to.
DNC.
I can't figure out how to get the audio to go. Listen,
That's
here,
the
here's-
DNC.
Here, no, you need to have it with the video.
No.
Here's the problem, Tom. I in my brain, what I want is to agree with you.
That's the noise people don't want to hear anymore. I mean, yes, Trump is going to be awful. I mean, we already
What are you
know
doing?
that.
I was checking for your brain.
Shut up. In my brain, I want to agree with you. The problem is that there's
Let my people go.
there's no better way for the Dems to reform their image.
There's no way for the Dems
Yes,
to
there
reform
is.
their
Because
image.
4 years ago, they said that the Republicans couldn't do it
Dude,
when
they've been
Trump
lying
lost.
to us for 4 years.
It doesn't matter. They said
it
4 years
does.
ago, they said when Trump lost the election, the Republicans are hosed. Frank Aquila came on this show and said we may not see another Republican for 12 years because Donald Trump lost the election and the Democrats are going to run like crazy. The Republicans were lost and rudderless. And what happened? Donald Trump decided to ride back in on his gallant steed and save everybody. The Democrats can reinvigorate themselves. Listen, after Watergate, remember this, after Watergate, the Republican Party was jacked.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Gerald Ford got sacked in the election by Jimmy Carter. 4 years later, the Republican Party was back, won the White House, and held it for 12 years.
Why is that?
Because Jimmy Carter was horrible.
Because Jimmy Carter was horrible.
And some people will say that Donald Trump will be bug repellent and just
but you've got
repel people.
But you have to see what the end of his administration.
I'm telling you what the end of the administration is going to look like.
But
I can already tell you what it's going to be. We have tariff wars on the horizon. We have prices going up. Inflation has not declined.
Tariff wars
has not gone backwards. It might have slowed or stalled, but it has not regressed.
No, it's not going to. And it has nothing to do with Trump.
I understand that. But when people voted for him, they expected to see things kind of return to the way they were before, and they're not going to. And Trump has laid out really clear guidelines. This is going to hurt before it gets better. Yeah. Well, it's not going to be better before the midterms, and Republicans are going to have their asses handed to them in the midterm.
Now, if that happens, then maybe I can see, possibly a Dem president in 28. But if the midterms hold,
won't hold.
And if the midterms hold, you're wrong.
As long as everything that Trump has said he's going to do is still stalled, the midterms are going to be a bloodbath for Republicans.
Well, then Congress needs to get off their ass.
Well, the Democrats don't want to get off their ass.
No, of course.
The Democrats want to slow play this thing out to make it even worse for him.
Sure.
And the Republicans are still too fractured, dude. I mean, you have divisions in the Republican Party. We heard it with the big, beautiful bill. A bunch of them weren't going to vote for that.
Right. You've got just as many fractures in the DNC. So, I mean, all the things you're talking
but they're
about,
all going to be unified on not helping Trump. Like, they don't have to be unified to pass a bill. They just have to be unified to try to delay anything that Trump wants to pass. The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Agreed, but they don't have the numbers right now.
Well, President AOC is coming in 2028.
Nope.
I think you're
if I'm right, what do I get?
So mistaken.
If I'm right, what do I get?
The knowledge that you were correct.
Perfect.
If you're wrong, you have embarrassment for life.
I'll act like it never happened.
Yeah, I'm sure.
All right.
He has to wear a toga.
I've worn one before.
Huh?
I've worn one before in here.
Yeah, that's true.
We did do a toga.
Yeah,
night
that's right.
John said Donald Trump Jr. will be the next king. Then he will pass the throne to Barron.
Yeah.
God, I freaking hope not.
Oh, by the way, while we're talking about all this, have you noticed that Trump is trolling Newsom hard?
Oh yeah,
I love it. I love it. It's great too.
And somebody brought it up today, and I totally forgot about it. So Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend, I don't know if they're still together, but
Kimberly Guilfoyle?
Yeah, she left.
They're not together. She's in Greece now.
Okay, but she left Newsom for Junior.
That's right. That's right.
And Donald is just making hay with that.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, she was either his girlfriend or they were married. I don't remember which, but they were together for a long time.
Engaged.
And then she took the job at Fox News. They split up. She went to Fox News many, many years ago, has been there, and then all those. That is one of the most fake women I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
She is.
There's a lot of silicone.
Oh God, I cannot stand listening to her speak for long. She's just not a genuine human being, you know. And listen, if you're Donald Trump, what a good daddy he is, right? He's like, oh, my son's breaking up with this girl, and they're still living in the South. I'm going to give her the Greece ambassadorship to get her the hell out of here.
Yep.
Like, oh. I'm like, thanks, Dad.
One more thing on this whole no kings thing before we switch up gears. This is a meme that's been circulating all over Facebook. I just want to read it. You guys do with it what you will.
Let my people go.
That's not it. No kings, but put your mask on. No kings, but lock us down. No kings, but I'm firing you for not vaccinating. No kings, but you can't go outside. No kings, but we don't accept your exemption. No kings, but you need 12,380 boosters. No kings, but we're shutting down your business. No kings, but you can't worship the real king. No kings, but all your family members will die alone. No kings, but I'm opening a hotline so you can tattle on your neighbor.
Yep.
No kings, but mandates galore. No kings, but you're responsible for my health. No kings, but social distance at 6 feet apart. No kings, but no family gatherings over 10. The hypocrisy is astounding. Who's actually the tyrant here? Which is an incredibly succinct point. Especially now as we look back 5 years later.
Didn't I make that point earlier?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
you did.
Especially as you look back 5 years later at COVID and the number of lies we were told, the amount of misinformation that was shared, the bullshit about how, well, you need to get vaccinated to save those around you. Didn't do any such thing. And 5 years later, there's still people that were fired from their state jobs that have never had their jobs reoffered to them.
Yep.
That you want to talk about kingship. What Jay Inslee did in this state was kingship. And nobody on the left batted an eye to that.
Yep.
Now, again, that just reinforced what I said before. This is about Trump. This is about hating Trump more than it is about anything else. But, just keep that in mind. When you talk about kings and edict tutorial rule, I mean, you did live through a whole bunch of years of Jay Inslee, especially during COVID. So,
yeah. And let's not forget the latest law that was signed in for Washington State.
Which one's that?
First responders, Department of Health can declare an emergency and lock you down. It can be a neighborhood, it can be a community, whatever.
Yes. Yep.
And they can force you to seek medical care.
So,
and they're not complaining about that shit, are they?
Nope.
Say that one more time.
Oh, you didn't hear about that? Yeah, she's
No,
100% right. This is a new law this year enacted by the Democrats.
Yep. In May, Bob Ferguson signed it in. I don't have the HB, but
Yeah, that's all right.
anyways, all first responders, whether it's your paramedic, your firefighter, your police department, your Department of Health official, can lock down your neighborhood, your community, your city, your county.
But don't we? Let me.
They have emergency powers.
Let me counter argument that.
Sure.
Don't we want that in an ideal world in really specific situations?
No.
For example, hold on. Let me give you a scenario. First responder comes to somebody's house in Ballard. They investigate in Ballard and they recognize the dude's got Ebola. That stuff travels fast, spreads easily, can wipe out it. In that situation,
That's already covered under federal law.
no, but hold on. But this would not be federal law. We'd have to wait for it to go to the feds, and then the feds could authorize the CDC to determine if it's Ebola, whatever, right? In the meantime, it's spreading. So my question is, in the ideal world where politics are not at play, wouldn't we want them to have that power as long as it's used responsibly and appropriately?
You want a bureaucrat at the Department of Health? I'm talking about it should be a medical physician
Yep.
that's able to lock, to say this is
But
Ebola.
not an EMT?
No.
How would an EMT know that it's Ebola?
I
Seriously.
don't know. I mean,
No,
I would assume
that's got to
they're
be done with
trained,
lab work.
Yeah, they're gonna Google it and go, "Oh, you've got Ebola." I
No,
mean,
that's all got to go through labs. I mean, the health department can quarantine an area if it needs to be done.
I appreciate where the two of you are coming from. I truly do, but I don't ever want the government or anybody that works for the government to have anything remotely close to that.
Never.
And I don't have to think about what the abuse would look like. We saw it.
Yeah.
Right. We saw this years ago. We saw it in places far worse than we even had it here. Tim Walz, governor of the state of Minnesota. Do you guys know what he did? He made the cops walk down streets shooting rubber bullets at anybody that had their doors open or were sticking their head out the window.
Yep.
No
Yeah,
way.
they just put
Nobody
that
in government. Fauci, now that we know he was full of shit and lying out his ass and he was directing the misinformation campaign, he needs to be prosecuted for what he did.
Oh, yeah.
And it won't happen, but he needs to be. Thank God Kennedy's in there now, and he fired the entire group of people at the CDC that were responsible for, NIH, that were responsible for the programs for vaccinations, right? Because he doesn't want people that are beholden to the vaccine companies sitting on that board. That is a guy who's doing this shit for the right reason, just like Elon Musk with Doge was, right? And those are the people that we need in there, reminding them that this is a constitutional republic, and that as Americans, we have a level of freedom that nobody else in the world has, and we should never, ever accept anybody stepping on it.
We had.
God damn it, Tom. Why do you keep screwing up my point?
I'm sorry, man. We had a level of freedom.
You're an asshat.
I'm an asshole. I mean, someone's got to deal with the shit.
S-H-O-L-E. Asshole.
Yeah. But seriously, we don't have now.
Well, okay, that's another conversation. It is, because there's a lot that goes into that, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot that goes into that. I am saying that we deserve to be able to work back towards having the ultimate laissez-faire capitalistic system with complete freedoms, right? We are always going to have dumb people that are going to do things, right? Hey, little Johnny over there's got Ebola, to quote Kevin, and he just went running to Sally's house and Frank's house, and hopefully they don't catch it, but those idiots should have kept the door shut. I look, that shit can always happen. You can walk out in your front yard and get hit by a car.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
We should not have anybody from the government.
Right. But we
calling any of that.
have a very vocal generation ahead of us and behind us
You
who
are
are all
correct,
about safety and bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And this is where I agree with Tom. Darwin needs to exist.
Yes.
People do dumb stuff.
Say it,
You're going to
Tom.
pay
Say-
the consequences.
Say, please don't procreate.
See,
No. I just think we need to take the warning labels off everything.
Especially the mattresses.
this is not a warning label doing something stupid scenario that we're talking about.
but
though.
I'm
We're
kinda-
talking about
Right, but I'm going
communicable
down
diseases.
Right, but I'm going down the rabbit hole that Lori just led us to,
You're
which
right.
is
You're right.
Darwin.
Jump in there.
Darwin needs to work.
You see that? Lori made a hole available. She just said, just jump right on in.
Oh,
Wow.
I didn't say it. I was quoting Lori.
The gene pool needs chlorine.
There's a kitty cat.
There is.
Here's
Over
again,
here, folks. The kitty cat's
I
over
hear
here. I'm
you
not talking
guys.
about Lori. I'm talking about the cat over
I
here.
hear you guys. I just disagree with you. I think in an ideal world, I'm kind of living in Tom's utopian libertarian paradise, right? In an ideal world, the federal government would have to have those types of options in the event of a mass casualty, uber contagious,
Let me give you a scenario.
Ebola-esque scenario.
I'll give you a scenario. This one actually was put into real life by Hollywood. Okay. You've got a small, fairly isolated town. A disease pops up. So the military comes in, wraps everybody up, doesn't let anybody in or out of that town, shoots to kill anybody that tries to get in or out of that town. Right. And when they say, well, we're not sure, we can't really, it's really virulent. And right. So they decide that they're going to drop a big bomb on that town and just wipe that town out. Right. Where do you draw the line? You place this trust in your government.
Well, no.
I don't
Remember, I just said in the ideal world. I mean, I think there's a lot of implementation issues with this, given our current status of government, whether Democrat or Republican. But I'm starting with the overall premise first, which is, in an ideal world, is that what we would want or need as a nation? And I think it is. Okay. Now, how is that implemented in a way where it removes politics? And that's probably the issue that you can't overcome. But I'm not advocating to drop a bomb. Like, do you quarantine and treat them? Do you quarantine and send in meds and train physicians in hazmat suits to see what you can do?
Listen, I get the argument but we haven't seen an outbreak where the government needed to come in and shut everything and everyone and everybody down. We've never seen anything. Now, that doesn't mean it won't happen, but we've seen.
I guarantee you it happens in our lifetime, Paul.
We've seen an Ebola outbreak. And guess what? It didn't spread. So
Ebola is a bad example.
The biggest thing that we have as a defense against anything like that is what? Information, education,
Right.
Yeah.
Educate people, wash your hands, wear the right kind of mask.
Right. In the case of Ebola, don't handle corpses.
Right?
Because that's how Ebola
Absolutely. But that's the education part of it, right? It's about teaching people. We found out now, guess what? The 6-foot rule didn't mean shit. They made it up.
Yep.
Right? Which meant that all that money that was spent by all those people, I had a little lady, she's probably in her 80s, point her finger at me and chew me out in the grocery store in Safeway in Belfair. She said that the entire outbreak was my fault because I was like, fuck it, I ain't wearing a mask and I'm not following the goddamn arrows because the shit I want's right in the middle of the hall. And I'm right over here and I'm just going to walk over and get it. And she just lit me up like a Christmas tree. And I was polite. She was my elder. I told her time was coming soon. Just hop in the box. So what? I'm making the point because she didn't hold back. She went off on me and you would have thought everything that I did and said, breathing offended her. So people buy into that shit. And I don't believe that anybody should have that kind of power anymore. Now, it's a different story when you got Typhoid Mary walking around sleeping with everybody. She can get her pussy wrapped around, right? That's not what we have going on here. No. And as soon as we see a virus or something like that show up, then maybe we can have that conversation. The problem is that the government in the state of Washington has already proven they cannot be trusted with that level of power, right? Because what did we see? We saw Bill Gates coordinating and communicating with Governor Jay Inslee about how to respond to something that nobody knew what it was. Before we even knew what it was, he was trying to help him implement a program. That's why I'm saying we can't trust government.
Well,
with that kind of stuff.
That I believe it's Jay Inslee's son is related to one of the Gates.
I thought he had
somehow.
I thought he had a kid that was married and working for the Gates Foundation as well, but I don't know for sure.
Or his daughter-in-law. That's right.
That's what it is.
Yeah,
that's what I thought, but I could be wrong about that.
No, you're right. I was wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of inbreeding in that
the royal family. We know.
Well, in that echelon of elite, right?
I don't
like. They're just.
Is there really, or is that you just being facetious?
No, I mean, sir. As far as intermingling of marriages
all the
and
rich
relationships
families,
between the rich families and stuff. I think what we saw from ancient Europe is no different than it is today. It's just framed in a different way.
Yep, marry for status.
Well, there was a reason why all them ancient Egyptians had elongated heads.
Well, I don't even consider it married for status, Tom, because it's when you're that rich and that powerful, you're accustomed to a certain life, and the only way you can maintain that life is to marry somebody who's also part of that life.
Well, I mean, it's still married for status. Use Bill and Hillary Clinton, for example.
Oh,
do you
God.
Can you think that's actually a happy marriage?
Can you imagine waking up next to her face every morning?
Hillary or Chelsea?
Hillary.
Chelsea's bad enough, man. I mean,
Chelsea's not awful. She's not hot.
You'd fuck a rake.
She's not. A rake.
Sometimes you got to draw a line and say, maybe I was drunk.
Dennis is like, I went all coyote ugly on my arm.
Let me go look up.
I did gnaw that son of a bitch off. I got to get here.
The ugly dog. That was.
See, she's not. I'm looking at a picture of Chelsea Clinton right now. She's not horrible. Compared to,
you haven't seen the TikTok videos where really ugly chicks make themselves look hot, have you?
I'm just telling you.
No, he hasn't.
Compared to the photos of her mother, Chelsea Clinton is a 10 compared to her mother.
It's amazing how much she looks like Vince Foster.
If I woke up next to
not
Hillary
where I
in the
was
morning,
going with this.
I would pull the whole coyote thing and just gnaw my arm off rather than wake her up. I couldn't.
That was a great movie, by the way.
I couldn't.
Great scene from a great
What movie is that?
Coyote Ugly.
Movie?
Yeah, Coyote Ugly.
Where she asks the girl, she's like, haven't you ever had a Coyote Ugly? And she's like, no, what's a Coyote Ugly? She's like, where you get drunk at the bar and you wake up in the morning, you take one look at the guy you're sleeping with and you'd rather gnaw your own arm off than wake him up.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Yeah.
Oh, I saw Coyote Ugly. I don't remember that. But I have seen the movie.
Music was good in that movie, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Leanne Rimes did a good job.
Yeah, she did. Piper Perabo.
Yep.
Was really good. Perabo, is that what?
And she's aged well when she was in Yellowstone. She's aged good.
You know what? I'll tell you this about Yellowstone. I was really disappointed in how they decided because they only had a limited time, and I thought they could have done a lot with her character, and her character art just sucked in that last. I was like, well,
because
fucking lame.
Dutton died. John died. Sorry,
no, but
spoiler.
but they could have done something with her character art that made a difference.
Yeah.
Instead, they like, oh shit, what are we gonna do with the chick in jail living in John's house?
Yeah.
Yep.
But anyway, I'm sorry. This neither here nor there. My apologies.
All right. Hey, I want to back up on the Israel Iran thing. I had a hot take I was going to give.
Oh yeah. Where was that hot take?
You ready?
He's like, I saw this girl. She was kind of good looking.
So here's the deal.
She was hot.
I'm 100% behind the U.S. joining Israel and wiping Iran off the map.
Like actual combat operation?
Yes.
Why?
Wow.
I'll tell you why. Because
that is a hot take.
Yeah.
That's a steamy.
Wow. Here's why.
Hot take.
Because Iran.
Somebody just stepped in dog. Dude.
Because Iran has made it clear for how long They're not going to abide by international treaty.
Right.
They're going to continue to develop nuclear weapons.
Right.
And guess what's going to happen? Those nuclear weapons are going to fall into the hands of terrorists, and then those terrorists are going to use them.
It's going to take them a while now because all them dead scientists ain't going to help none.
But where are they going to use them? They're not going to use them in Iran. They're going to use them in Israel and in Europe and in New York City and in other American cities. And so it's not like we're dealing with a nation like Russia or China that has at least what we perceive as some level of control over their nuclear program.
The problem is Russia and Iran are chummy.
No, I get it, but Russia has nukes and Iran doesn't. Why does Iran not have a nuclear program? Because the Russians haven't wanted to give them nukes because they know what I know, which is you cannot protect the security of those nukes once the Iranians have them.
Right.
So if you're the United States right now, you have two options. Option number one is you fully back Israel. You wipe Iran off the face of the earth. You take away their ability to develop a nuke that can fall into the hands of terrorist groups that Iran supports. Or you don't get involved. Iran survives, and you just kind of wait for a nuke to go off in Charleston or in New York City or in Los Angeles or in New Orleans.
So
and then there'll be tons of hand-wringing about how did we let this happen? Why didn't we intervene? Why didn't we stop it? This is a modern day Bay of Pigs.
If we get involved with, militarily, if we put U.S. boots in the dirt, assisting Israel, the whole of the Middle East is going to be a complete shit show.
Yeah.
And there's a strong chance it'll drag part of the West in with it.
Well, I'm going to say this because I'm just now reading it. But as of 4 hours ago, there are people in independent news organizations that are putting information out that due to seismic activity near the Fordow nuclear facility, it appears that Iran may have just tested a nuclear weapon. If that's the case, then Kevin's 1,000% right.
Yep.
But
and
again,
even if it's not the case, it's the case. Because even if they don't have a nuke today, they could have a nuke tomorrow or within 3 months or 6 months or a year. And that nuke is not going to be used for defensive purposes. The Iranians have shown us they will do whatever they can do to F with the Israelis, including backing Hamas and Hezbollah, including pouring money and weapons into people that hate them, launching drone attacks. And this is before Israel's salvo over the last couple of days. Right? The rebels in Yemen, what are they? The Houthis and the Blowfishes? Yeah, Houthi and the Blowfishes. They're sending drones to strike Israel. Where are they getting the money for the drones? The Iranians. The Iranians have made it clear they're going to fight a proxy war with Israel until they can do a full-fledged war with Israel. And that full-fledged war will come when they have nukes. And when they have nukes, folks, it's too late. Because they'll nuke Tel Aviv and they'll nuke Jerusalem. And then when Israel's not an issue, those nukes will show up in American cities and in European cities. London, Paris, Berlin, Rome, Madrid. And then everybody's going to be asking themselves, how the hell did that happen? How do we let a terrorist nation get a hold of nukes? And by the way, the same thing applies to North Korea.
Well, North Korea can't get the tech right. I mean, North Korea can barely get a rocket to go up and back down again.
Yeah. But I'm not worried about the rockets. I'm worried about the nuke development.
Well, how do you
if you can
build a nuke? You move a nuke with a rocket.
You can build a nuke and put it in a backpack.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You do not need a
that's
rocket.
true.
That's about delivery system
Yeah,
and
right.
And if North Korea gets a nuke, you don't think they're going to sell it? That country is so flat ass broke. You don't think they would sell it? Hey, Ayatollah, we just came out with 5 nukes. You can put these in a backpack. Would you like them?
No, they'd use it on South Korea.
Oh, I don't know if they would.
That's suicide for them.
And if I'm North Korea, why not sell them, get the money, and churn out some more nukes that you could use yourself if you want to?
Mm-hmm.
The downside to North Korea using nukes on South Korea is the amount of radiation that'll blow across that border.
Mm-hmm.
But if they make it and sell it, they get billions of dollars from a nation like Iran. and they don't have to live with the fallout.
But on the other hand, Kevin, you don't think for a minute that Bibi is also encouraging this war with Iran?
Oh yeah, I mean they're the ones that started this.
Right.
This round.
Yeah.
But this all stems off of October 7th. Like this is all an extension off of Iran backing Hamas.
Right.
And Hamas's
But
attacks in
Bibi
Israel.
backed Hamas. Bibi fed Israeli government money to Hamas.
Do we know that for sure?
Yeah. It's been reported over in Tel Aviv as well as the India Times, Al Jazeera.
Yeah.
So the Earth, the shaking that was detected was a 4.3.
Mhm.
It is typical for nuclear test explosions to result in around a 5.0.
Mhm.
So it's possible that the Iranians did test a nuke. It was just of a smaller magnitude. But it is one of the reasons why Israel decided to go ahead with these attacks is because they learned that Iran was within days of having a nuke to test. So the timeline is appropriate. So it's hard to say what is going on, and the munitions that I'm looking at video footage right now of coming out definitely does not look like a nuke, but it does look like it could be like we have the Moab, we call the mother of all bombs, which is a non-nuclear airburst device. It's the largest non-nuclear explosive device in the world. There are some. It's escalating, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
And because the footage that I'm seeing coming from last night out of Israel is you can't describe the size of this explosion. And this one that you guys are looking at right now, this is in Israel. So this attack, it's huge. So I mean, that's a hell of a large mushroom cloud. Not big enough to be from a nuclear device, but it's big. So I do fear, because I think Iran does a really good job of playing the victim, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then using their religion and using the region to draw angst towards, whomever. In this case, they'll be like, the big bad Western United States is backing Israel and they're using Israel to attack us. We need all of our Arab brothers and sisters to come with us. We're going to go to war, right?
Yep.
We're going to wipe out it. Look, Iran's not the only ones that want to wipe Israel out. Luckily, most of the other Arab countries are like, yeah, but we're not going to fuck with the U.S. So, we're going to stay. We're going to step off on this one, okay?
Right.
But I can still see it happen, and I want to point out. Remember a couple of years ago when October 7th happened? I made it very clear that I think that for a lot of different reasons, somebody is behind the scenes pulling the strings. Do you guys remember that conversation? Because I felt that what was going on with Hezbollah, what was going on with Hamas attacking Israel, we had the issues with China giving weapons and munitions to Russia, what was going on in Ukraine, right? So we've got all these things going on, and there's only one group on the face of planet Earth that benefits from the United States being pulled in many different directions at once, and that's China, who's made it very clear that they want Taiwan.
Yep.
I can absolutely see. Listen, if you've ever read The Art of War, you know that it is absolutely within the Chinese playbook to create other conflicts for us, because we're their geopolitical opponent in all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they want Taiwan, we're the only ones they got to worry about right now.
Well, and they're worried about the tariffs, economic
Absolutely.
concerns, and not only that, but Taiwan owns how much of the chip market?
Yeah, like 90%, something like that.
All of it.
95.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's my, again, I even more firmly stand behind my point now that I could see, and listen, if you've been following some of the underground news networks, you've heard the name China thrown around a lot this weekend.
Yeah.
People talking about, well, China's doing this, China's doing that. Now is the time. If China wanted to take Taiwan, it may not be today, but it's coming soon, because the United States is getting pulled in these different directions. If we suddenly have to commit troops to Ukraine to help the Ukrainians because Putin isn't backing down, all this, one day he wanted peace. Now all of a sudden, all these attacks are going off. Zelensky wanted peace. Now he's, pulling off these mass attacks 2,000 miles behind the front lines into Russia. Like, there's a lot of things that only add up if somebody else is a major player,
Right.
and we're just not seeing them. I guess that's my point of contention. So, That's it. I've preached my goodness. I can go home.
Well, listen, I firmly believe that Iran getting nukes is inevitable unless we stop.
Not if this attack goes.
Unless we stop them. Well, no, but I'm saying unless we stop them, unless something happens to actually stop them from existing. It's the only way. It's the only way to prevent it. It's the only way to stop it. You have to cut the head off the snake.
Do you guys support the United States getting involved and helping helping Israel decimate Iran? It's military.
Yes.
You do support it, Kevin?
1,000%. Because we wouldn't.
I want to know what the lady in the room has
I'm
to
going to
think.
answer you. Let me finish answering your question.
Okay, go
we
ahead.
wouldn't even have
lady.
to put boots on the ground.
Your point is that our Air Force and everybody else could
Our
could
air
do it.
power, our missiles off of subs and ships from the Persian Gulf.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, we could annihilate
You sure
them.
about that?
Yes, that's what we did to Iraq.
Yeah,
And
but
if
that
you
was
remember-
a different time. And remember, the Biden administration gave a lot of money to Iran.
I get
and right
it.
now, the rockets they're sending over, the missiles, are 4th gen. They have 5th gen sitting in their arsenal,
Yeah.
ready to go.
They would not last a week.
Okay.
Not against the full might of just the U.S. Navy.
Mhm.
Just the full might of the U.S. Navy would topple in less than a week.
But where's the U.S. Navy?
The U.S. Navy could be there in a matter of.
I know, but they're spread thin too. There's a lot of stuff popping off right now.
Actually, all we would need is a carrier and a couple of.
Well, isn't there already a carrier in the Mediterranean off the coast of Israel?
I believe there is.
I thought there was.
And there's bound to be another one in the Indian Ocean. If there's not, there's one on the way.
Mhm.
There's always something going through that area.
Okay.
Now they could easily have 2 or 3 carriers out there within a month, I would think.
Now,
and subs could be there in a matter of days, and they wouldn't even know until that sucker popped up above the ocean,
Right.
and started launching a whole bunch of missiles.
and
off
they
of
don't
it.
even have to surface to do that now.
No, yeah. I mean, so it would be an annihilation just by the Navy, and that's not including what power the Air Force has to throw at them. The Coast Guard can park off the coast with their slingshots and throw rocks at them, and then the Army can just kind of chill out in their tanks with their crayons and just kind of watch.
My question, well, to that question is, when you say obliterate, I mean, do you mean civilians, military? I mean, there's no hesitation. It's a glass parking lot when we're done, or do you mean strategic, hit military, just military, areas?
Sites, yeah.
I think both. I think
so. You think decimate the population?
No. I think both answers come into play. I think you are strategic in what you hit. You hit military and government sites, but you cannot worry about innocent civilian casualties in an active war. So you don't target civilian populations, right? Like I wouldn't start sending missiles into civilian neighborhoods outside of Tehran, but you hit strategic sites knowing that the fallout from hitting those sites are going to wind up killing some civilians, and that's unfortunate, but that's war.
Right. I mean,
Like
that was Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't mean to that level though. I don't want to nuke, but
no,
but if you start shelling a military radar site, and some of those missiles go off a half mile off course and landed in a residential neighborhood, God, that's sad and it sucks. But that's what happens when you have a war.
Well,
you cannot win a war. We saw it in Vietnam. You cannot win a war if you're trying to be the good guy.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that in every war
since.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have not gone in and fought the way we did in World War II.
Yeah.
So to answer Paul's question, from my perspective, the only way that I would really, 2 ways that I would be in favor of backing Israel and helping out.
Mm-hmm.
1, confirmed nukes in Iran. And 2, Bibi or Israel has some restrictions placed on them or something that they have to do after this is said and done. They can't keep
perpetuating the violence.
Yeah, they can't be the victim all the time, and I get it. They are in a lot of senses because of Islam, but the other part of it is they have to protect themselves, but they can't be the aggressors either.
Well, again, I mean, would you argue that Israel's the aggressor right now? Or is Israel still protecting themselves from what happened on October 7? Like, that's the question. Because October 7 happened because of Hamas being funded by the Iranians. And as long as the Iranians are still alive and kicking and funding, Israel's never going to be safe. So is this just part of them defending themselves after what happened October 7th? You know, that's my question.
But then look at all the Palestinian, women, children, civilians that are dead.
I'm sorry.
That's a parking lot.
I don't give a shit. Because at some point, like, you want to minimize civilian casualties as much as you can, but there is a responsibility placed on a people for who their leader is. Donald Trump goes batshit crazy, starts invading Canada. We're responsible because we put him in power and left him in power and allowed him to do it.
Right.
Now we can have a whole conversation about that later.
Well, I would suggest,
but the people in the West Bank that not only has allowed Hamas to do what they've always done, but cheered them as they brought the decapitated bodies of female concert goers across the border, that aided and abetted in hiding those hostages, that aided and abetting in the raping and murdering of some of those hostages. Yeah, you're complicit. I'm sorry. If we invade Canada and bring a whole bunch of Canuck girls across the border and we abuse them and rape them and murder them and behead them, we are complicit. There's no other way to put it. So I don't, I want to minimize American casualties.
The best way to do that is to stay away.
I disagree, Tom, because you're gonna delay human casualties staying away.
No, it's Israel's fight.
But it's not, because we've been named as co-conspirators with Israel by Iran.
Okay, but why is nobody standing up and saying we're funding both sides of this? We funded Iran
because that wouldn't play well in the press. That wouldn't play well in the press.
Exactly. But that's my point.
And why isn't Trump saying it? That's your question.
Yeah.
Why isn't Trump coming out and saying that?
Because Trump was negotiating with a bunch of generals in Iran, and they all said, no, we're not going to take the deal. No, we're not going to take the deal. So Trump winked his little eye to the Israelis. Now they're all dead. And Trump's like, okay, who wants to make a deal now? It's fucking genius.
Well,
like if you compare what he's pulling off right now to, like, I don't know, an episode of Vikings, it's like, hey, I want to make peace. I don't want to see people die. We're not going to give you that deal. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to hurt you. All right, go ahead and fucking kill him. I mean, it's like a scene out of The Godfather, dude.
Yeah.
Well, here's what's going to happen. I'll predict this for you right now.
You need to stay out of the prediction.
If Iran has nukes, they will not launch a nuclear missile attack because it will give Israel time to respond. Because they'll know.
They don't have a delivery system anyway, because it takes a lot to get the nuke small enough to put it on a missile. So if they just tested a nuke, if the earthquake was a test, okay, here's what I would tell you. All they're trying to do is to get one working so they can find a way to get it to Israel, probably on a boat. On a boat? No, it's not. It's not small.
Oh, okay.
It won't be backpack sized.
No, it'll be big, like truck bed big.
Yeah,
but that's the problem, right?
Remember Fat Man and Little Boy? You remember how big they were?
Big.
But
everybody said, well, nukes are deterrent. We can't use our nuke because if we use our nuke, then they'll use their nuke. But that only works when
assured destruction.
But that only works when you have mutually assured delivery capacity. And if Iran parks a ship off the coast of Tel Aviv or Israel, or God forbid both, and detonates two big old nukes right off the coast, Israel won't have a chance to respond.
Yeah, nobody will be worried about Jerusalem anymore.
Yeah, it'll be gone. And nobody will be able to push a button to respond. Like in the U.S., we have the advantage of being so huge and spread out. It would be different. Israel's not blessed that way.
No, 4 or 5 nukes in that country ceases to exist.
Yeah. And if you time it right, look, and I'm not a military strategist.
China won't allow it.
And I'm smart enough to know that if you time it right, Israel would never have a chance to respond. Israel would be gone. Iran would win. And You think the 6 million Jews killed by the Nazis that would be a drop in the bucket? And Tom's idea, well, we just, to protect American citizens, we just go over there. We don't want to lose any American lives until one of those nukes is in a backpack.
Good Lord.
Or in a ship off the coast of New York Harbor.
If that happened, fucking Hamas would be crawling out of holes going, we win.
They wouldn't be alive.
And back to your earlier point,
they glow in the dark.
Iran would not detonate a nuke on American soil. Back to the point you said. I mean, we're blessed by size.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, they pull a boat. Jeez.
I had to.
I'm blessed by size. Just ask Nancy.
Oh,
how you doing, baby?
God damn it.
Oh,
Anyhow,
duck Paul. Duck.
Is it awkward, Tom, to think that your co-host for all these years just wants to poke the shit out of your aunt?
You're not helping.
Again.
Okay, I'm just bringing it up, man.
Again. Do it again.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I've heard of guys getting it done in quick, but I mean, I didn't think you were alone with her in the tent that long.
God damn. At 2, Brute.
He's like checking his watch, like,
at
60
2,
seconds or so. Wham, bam, thank you, man. See Kevin's sex manual? Have you seen that?
I have not.
It says in, out, repeat if necessary.
Anyways,
do you know why I meant orgasm first? Because we want to. Because we want to. Go ahead, Tom.
Anyhow,
Kevin's a little prick.
To your point earlier.
To my point, Nancy.
Iran has no interest in tangling with the U.S., so they won't detonate a nuke here.
I probably agree because I think they still have a desire for self-preservation.
Right. Yeah. Iran would disappear. They detonate a nuke in New York Harbor or off the coast of California.
You guys are stupid. You're so dumb.
If you want,
that's so wrong.
Okay, Kevin.
They don't care about self-preservation, or they never would have gone in on October 7th. Did they think when they backed Hamas that all those people walked into Israel and killed all those concert goers, retreated across the across the border? Did they think that Israel was just going to go, oh, fuck, we can't catch him now.
Kevin,
maybe next time.
We've had this conversation over the years. Many people in Iran, including the mullahs, want to bring about the return of the 12th Mahdi.
Exactly. That's why I don't think they care if they detonate a nuke, because it would be part of their end game. They believe they got a whole bunch of virgins waiting for them when they die. So if they carry out an attack in New York City, Los Angeles.
It said Virgil.
If they carry out an attack in New York City, Los Angeles against the great American enemy, and they kill hundreds of thousands or millions of people, they would see that as a win and that their God would celebrate them for it. And whatever happens after that is a bonus in the afterlife. They won't give two shits.
Then why don't they tangle with us now?
Because they don't have nukes.
So
they can't get the kind of kill count that they want.
You can't have it both ways. I mean, they're either going to martyr themselves or they're not.
Well,
I'm going to go back to the China puppeteering.
Yeah,
possibly.
China built the port
possibly.
Or expanded the port at Haifa
in
Israel. China has a very huge economic investment in this whole,
and China's economy is faltering right now. So yeah,
right.
It's a very good point.
China is in alliance with who else? Iran.
Well,
they don't want them to mess this up for them.
And Rick brought up a point in chat. He said, if a nuke goes off in New York City harbor, Iran can claim they know nothing about it. Mm-hmm. And then what do we do? Without ironclad proof, we won't nuke them back. And no, I hope that we wouldn't nuke them back. But actually, you can tell by the radiation from somebody who went to NB school, like they have the capability. I've never used the equipment. I've only been told about it, but it's there. It's not a secret or anything. They can use equipment to measure the cesium levels and the other radioactive isotopes. They can tell when this stuff was made, what reactor it came from. They can tell all that information. So if a nuke does go off, they'll know who. What they won't know is who delivered it. Well, they'll know where it was created, but they won't know who delivered it.
But you guys are acting under the assumption we care about fact. Go back to what happened with 9/11. There was no fact to support us going back into Iraq.
Or weapons of mass destruction.
Yeah, the government used it as an excuse. So even if we didn't have anything to back up the fact that Iran did it, they would basically come down and say, well, we think it's Iran, so we're going to make it Iran or North Korea or whoever they assign it to, right? We would still wind up in a war with somebody, and we would still end up nuking somebody. And then 5 years later, we'd come back and realize that the information we got that was wrong, or it was a guess, just like it was in Iraq.
Yeah.
But they don't need truth. They've never dealt in truth. Why do you guys think they're going to deal in truth today?
Well, I mean, truth is important. I mean, look at Tegan's comments. She just wants to know about your sex manual. She's like, please share. Yeah, Tegan, PM me. I'll give it all to you.
All right.
What?
It's a short PDF. Let me tell you. But do you understand what I'm saying? It doesn't. In a real world, he's right. Like, we would need to have proof. But we saw at 9/11, we didn't need proof to go back into Iraq. We had an agenda, and we used 9/11 to justify the agenda, and then it didn't matter in the end that we were wrong.
Well, the agenda,
and that we
the
lost more than
American way.
3,000 American men and women in Iraq for a bogus bullshit reason that we didn't need to send them in there for in the first place.
Like I said, agendas are the American way.
Yeah, well, yeah, but that's why I'm saying the truth doesn't matter. The tail wags the dog, not the other way around.
True. It was a movie.
Yeah.
Did you see it, Kevin?
No.
Of course you didn't.
The tail wags the dog.
It's called Wag the Dog.
Yeah.
And it's about basically
the government manufacturing.
Yeah, manufacturing war. And there was another one where a news station manufactured a war in order to get, views and publicity.
Ratings.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Did you see it, Kevin?
No, but I remember the premise for it. Do you remember, Paul, when we were kids? Tom, you might remember this too.
I remember everything when I was a kid.
Lori didn't have TV back then. She was,
I might remember this too.
She was in Stanwood, and they had rabbit ears. And do you remember that show? Remember that show they did that was a like a news broadcast of a nuke going off in Charlotte Harbor?
Yep, I do remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
Yep. Because when I was watching it, I didn't know. I hadn't caught at the beginning where it said this was a dramatization.
You thought it was real.
So I thought it was real. Yeah. And the way that I figured out that it wasn't real was one of the actors in it was Scott Glenn, who I had recognized from Westerns. And so I was just like, no, that can't be real, and then sure enough, the next commercial break. But it scared the shit out of me.
Kind of like Orson Welles.
Yeah.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah. It's from our perspective doing this now for all these years, like I can understand from my perspective historically and how things have technology has transitioned. I can understand how Orson Welles' War of the Worlds made people shit their pants.
Oh yeah, people
I
jumped
get
out
it.
of buildings, committed suicide because they thought it was real.
Yeah. At some point, you would think somebody in that studio would be like, Orson, let's talk, bud. Let's talk. I mean, I can't imagine what that newsroom must have been like while they were doing that broadcast. That's crazy.
People ask what I'm drinking. Sugar-free root beer. Thank you. And by the way, the worst case scenario is
aspartame. That's the worst case
They
scenario.
let off aspartame tastes like
shit.
Is there aspartame in this?
It's
diet.
Oh, there is aspartame. No, there's not aspartame in everything.
Cancer.
Like Pepsi Zero doesn't have aspartame. Coke Zero doesn't have aspartame.
Cancer.
Not in everybody.
I said cancer.
I know, not in everybody.
Nancy,
It's in laboratory rats.
Nancy, who are you saying is a moron?
Anyway,
she said that oxymoron.
No, thus the oxymoron.
Yes, I know, Tom.
Kevin Nelson said Special Bulletin was the name of the TV movie I brought up.
That is it. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah,
Was that a local
listen,
thing?
I just know
No.
it was a national thing.
They made it look like there was a news report, a terrorist attack, and they were on some U.S. Navy vessels, like an aircraft carrier and stuff like that. And yeah, it was.
God, I don't remember that.
Yeah,
I don't think I was allowed to watch it yet.
Do you know what year it was?
Yeah, I'll tell you in a second.
Oh, okay.
There's
Because,
an amazing thing called Google.
It's called Special Bulletin. It was broadcast on April 29th, 1984. You can find it on YouTube.
Oh,
Yep.
no, I could watch it.
It's right here. Special Bulletin, 1983.
Oh, we had a satellite dish, so we were watching Eastern
2 hours
Channel.
Oh, yeah. I just didn't care. I was 11.
There was another good one, Countdown to Looking Glass. That one was pretty good too. But anyway, those things are out there. Look, in the 80s, understand something. This is why we joke about Gen
Red
X
Dawn.
and how fucked up we are, right?
We're not fucked up.
because-
Whoa. We are the best.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're. Listen, I think that we are in a lot of ways. We do have a lot of advantages that the kids
Oh, yeah.
today don't have, right?
We can
Because
drive stick shifts.
well, and our parents
Recursive.
did not shelter us.
No.
They would make us sit down with a grilled cheese sandwich and watch a fake
real movie that made it look like our country was going to nuclear war, and it would fuck you up for months because it fucked up everybody I knew, man. People were like, they'd be talking about, like, did you hear that? Was that
well, and
was
we
that an alarm?
grew up in the Cold War.
Yes.
And nobody, I mean, if you talk about that today, you have to sit down and explain it for like 30 minutes because nobody gets it unless they're our age or older.
Right. When you're sitting there trying to tell your kids, listen, kids, for my entire childhood growing up, I thought there was somebody with their finger next to a button. 10,000 miles away that at any moment could push it, and in 30 minutes we'd all be dead, everything gone, poof. And like the
we
worst
had
80s
drills.
B movies would.
Yeah, we had drills to go under our desk in case the button was pushed.
Yeah.
Excuse me, did we all watch the headlines from, Hiroshima and Nagasaki?
Right.
Getting under the
We all
desk
knew
was
that.
not going to do anything for us.
We knew that the drills that they were forcing us to do weren't going to save us from anything.
Yeah.
That it would, if you saw that, and it was that line from the Matthew Broderick movie.
Would you like to play a game?
Except it was the line where the doctor that invented the computer looked at them and said, "Oh, I live in it's a great place where I live. A millisecond of blinding bright white light and we're vaporized." You can't stop thinking about that when you're like prepubescent, man. You're like, I'm gonna see a bright light and I'm just gonna be gone. Everything's gone. Well, if I hide in my basement underneath the dirt line, right? Will I survive then, man? All that stuff went through your head.
No, probably not.
Wolverine. Yeah, Wolverines. Yeah, and then you had Red Dawn came out.
Right. Yeah. Which is what taught us all.
The original Red Dawn, not the remake, which was crap.
There's no way our names are ending up on a list with gun ownership paperwork.
Nope.
No, it's not happening.
Never ever.
All because of that movie.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't believe us?
And
no,
as a
I
girl,
don't own any guns.
And as a girl, you saw the grandfather bring out his granddaughters.
Yes.
And ask these young teenage boys, take care of them.
Yeah.
Keep them safe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's
and
when you grow up in that world, that level of propaganda, that level of in your face, no strings pull, like
the first Top Gun came out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and radio, AM radio, the chair is against the wall. What did that
John
mean?
has a long mustache.
Yeah.
And do you remember what that stuff was? That was stuff that was taken directly from the French Resistance in World War II, and it was added to that movie to give it a realistic flair because it had been used in real life.
Yeah.
So pretty cool stuff.
So that parents could explain to their Gen X kids, hey, that really happened.
Yeah.
This is what it means. And, that was, to give those kids, those adults behind enemy lines hope.
Yeah. Because we all grew up with grandparents that fought in World War II.
Yeah.
And our parents were part of the baby boomer generation. And it's very simple what that means, folks. If I need to explain it to you, you don't have much hope. The thing is, all these men went off to war.
Don't hold back, Paul.
And when they got back, there was a lot of rabbit fucking humping going on, okay? And they popped out a lot of kids. That's where our parents' generation came from, okay? And when my grandfather got back from World War II, well, let's just say he saw Germans and Japanese everywhere, okay? Not a great grandpa. Loved him to death. I wouldn't know what a good grandpa felt like, okay? I just would have no clue, okay? I think he maybe said 14 words to me in 20 years before he passed. But I loved him, I mean,
that's too bad. I had an incredible grandfather.
My grandfather, okay, was in the Navy. His brother owned the house right next door to him. He was in the Navy also. But at the end of the war, my great uncle ended up in the occupation forces of Japan, and he did the one thing that in a Navy yard you probably didn't want to do after a war with another country, Japan. He brought a Japanese woman home and married her. So here they lived right next to each other for all these years, and I almost never. We called her Teddy. I almost never saw her.
Yeah,
because my own grandma. No, you don't go talk to Teddy. She's Japanese. I mean, it was just that's how we grew up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still the remnants of World War II were still prevalent when we were kids. So maybe not for Kevin, because you're not saying anything. So I figured maybe you just couldn't identify.
You could just die in a fire right now.
Whoa.
Or
Die in a
such
fire,
violence,
right-
like a nuclear
right now.
fire, like a bright nuclear flash.
Okay.
Poles burnt up. How long are they? Fried Poles.
before we do parting shots,
Mhm.
does anybody have a prediction what happens in the next week before next week's show?
Oh hell yeah!
Just overall, right? We've got everything with the Israel and Iran. We've
I'm
got everything with
predicting
the
that we're
protesters.
alive and can be here.
Okay, well
that's a good prediction. I like
Yeah,
that one.
I think
Well, nobody will be around to tell you you're wrong if you're wrong. So nice
Well.
job.
Dennis, what about you, man? No, do you have any predictions over the next week?
If we're here, Israel,
I
Iran.
can't predict what's going on tomorrow in Port Orchard. So
I know what there won't be in Port Orchard tomorrow. A no Kings. Fucking, I think they're done with that. Okay, Tom. Fuck, he took a deep breath. He's really thinking about this. pretty
No,
hard.
I really am. Unfortunately, I could see potential for boots in the dirt, American boots in the dirt, before we broadcast next. I hope I'm wrong. God, I hope I'm wrong. But
Wait, say that over again. Sorry.
I could see American boots in the dirt in the Middle East before we broadcast again.
American boots.
American boots.
Okay.
I
can
hope
understand.
I'm wrong.
I can understand where that's coming from, though. Tom.
I do hope I'm wrong, but yeah, I could see it.
Kevin,
I think there'll be a truce declared or some kind of a temporary peace declared between the two by the end of the week.
God, I hope you're right.
I think Israel will have felt like they made a statement, and Iran knows that they can't win. So I think there'll be a stalemate reached probably by midweek, where they
Do
agree
you?
to stop hurling things at each other.
Do you, or do you think they'll martyr themselves?
No, I don't think they'll martyr themselves.
I just want to remind everybody: Kevin is continuously, perpetually wrong about predictions of all
That's not
types.
true. That's not true.
Well,
I told you Biden was going to beat Trump.
You also said bird.
I understand that, but I just said Paul said always, and I'm just saying
You're. I love you.
It's not
You're
always.
always wrong.
No,
Mostly.
I said
Okay, would
Biden
it
would beat
make you feel
Trump.
better if I said most of the time?
That's fine. You
Okay.
can say most of the time.
Okay,
I just
most
want
of
you
the
to be factually accurate.
Okay, well, most of the time, 97.4%.
Margie says we already have boots there.
She might be telling the truth.
Not
I'm-
full-fledged, though.
I'm
More
sure we have
advisors and-
advisors. No, when I say boots in the dirt, I mean we have combat troops. You know, in number.
Mm-hmm.
So here is what I will say. I think that we will have a steady stream of attacks by the Israelis, while the counter strikes of missiles will slowly erode. And then I think something unexpected will happen because the Iranians are going to try to tip the scales somehow.
Mhm.
They're going to try to do something. I don't know what their complete capabilities are. So I think something unexpected happens, but I think it fails miserably. Listen, and the prophecies say, these are prophecies that I very adamantly follow, say that the king of terror will fall from the sky, and that basically what it's referring to is basically the anti-missile system that Israel has, because they actually have 3 different systems set up. To break them down, because I don't want to paraphrase because I don't remember them exactly, but essentially a bunch of missiles and rockets are going to get launched at Israel, trying to wipe Israel off the planet, and the anti-missile defense system is going to take them all out, and that'll be the last ditch effort by the Iranians, and that'll be the end of it. It'll literally become a short-term war of attrition. And the Iranians just don't have the money and the personal. Remember, in Iran, when you cut off the head of that snake, it's not like the United States military here, right? Where we down to the smallest the smallest private, and every NCO and every officer, they all know the mission, so that way the mission can get passed on from person to person. They do not do that in Iran. So, the generals know what they're doing, but once you get down underneath that, nobody else knows what to do.
Until they're given orders.
Yeah. So I think that Israel will keep working to cut off the heads of that snake, even though 2 pop up for every one they chop off. And I think they've got this well planned out, because they've hinted at the fact it's going to be a week or 2 long. And I think that Israel, they're when you go to a football game and you see like the first 25 plays are scripted out, I think that's what Israel's doing. They've got it all scripted out. And then they're just going to respond accordingly to whatever Iran does.
Do you think Hamas and Yemen, or the Houthis, start striking at Israel as well?
No, I think they're as good as toast. Do you guys hear that noise in your headphones, or am I the only one?
No, I hear it.
It sounds like something is scratching on something metallic.
Is it me? Sorry, I've been swinging.
I don't know.
You're a swinger. Okay.
No,
got it.
I'm not.
She does have that little tail going on over
The
there.
Remember,
cord.
Lori Speeds proudly supports swinging.
Anyway, but we'll see. Like I said, I think Israel will ultimately be very victorious unless something incredibly unexpected happens. For example, if Iran does say, yeah, we've got a nuke, and yeah, we just detonated it, like as if to send a message so they don't detonate it in Israel. But they're like, hey, that earthquake, that was a nuclear detonation. We now have nukes, and if you don't stop attacking us, we're going to use one on you. Right? Like that could change the dynamic immensely. I hope that Tom is incredibly wrong.
Me too.
But I will acknowledge that he absolutely could be completely right. I don't want to say anything about what Kevin said, because if I acknowledge that Kevin could be right, we will never hear the end of it. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Tom might be right. I might be right. Lori might be right. Kevin's fucked. There we go. Love you too,
Anyway.
Kevin.
Well, I mean, just read the book of Revelations.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, let's hope that one doesn't come through.
Because that's, if it is true, then we're in the middle of it right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But they're leaving one massive thing out if Revelations is true, and that's that they have not attempted to rebuild
No, not yet.
the temple.
They would have to demolish it first and then rebuild.
Of course, the nuke would do that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, maybe if that happens and then they go to rebuild it, and then we're like, oh, shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think a full.
Can be like, I'm working on my master's degree, you fuckers.
I just think a full-on assault by American and Israeli forces into Iran needs to happen.
Fuck, you guys are Debbie Downer, man. Oh,
No,
I both you guys, man. Lori and I
just
are on the
can't.
same sheet of music, but you two assholes are like, let's bring it on.
No, see, I think we'll get involved, but I don't think we should.
Yeah, and I think we should.
There's
I
a
think we need to.
difference. There's
Can
a
you
difference.
imagine what happened if a nuke went off in DC?
Yeah, it'd be
they'd
awful.
blow up Congress.
Designated survivor. Let's go.
But no. The only time there's a designated survivor is when they're all meeting in one building.
Right.
They can all be in the same city, and if you pop off a nuke in Washington, you theoretically get every single member of the leadership class, every last
Then
one of them.
You'll end up with a ragtag fugitive fleet on a lonely mission for
And
a
then
little star in
we
the
become
sky.
a military republic.
But
until-
who would then be in charge?
Well, you would have whatever general was senior.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
it would just be
that
the
wasn't in
most
DC.
Probably somebody at NORAD.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
probably.
would be the most ranking member of the military.
That's right, or the Joint Chiefs. Yeah.
Mhm.
Probably somebody at NORAD,
That scares me.
Probably.
because the Pentagon would be gone.
That would be a really big. If it was one nuke, that'd be a really big one.
Mm-hmm.
DC's not that huge.
Well, so you have on the largest payloads right now on a large nuke that's held by the Americans or the French, British, or the Russians, right? You're talking 150 kilotons, right? 25 miles is your blast zone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like if one of those hit Bremerton, like I wouldn't survive that, and I live out on fucking Key Peninsula, so like it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and nobody tell my wife that, please, because I told her we were safe from nukes out there.
Hope she doesn't listen to the show.
You lie.
Yeah. She's like, I don't want to live close enough to
25
a
miles.
target.
Seattle wouldn't even be
That's right.
safe. I mean, come on,
No.
let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Oh, well,
I mean, I'm gone
when it
right away.
I needed to buy the fucking house, man.
No,
well,
I know.
it's less than 5 miles from the Pentagon
to
the Capitol building.
That's fucked.
Yeah, that's my point.
But if it's a big one, wouldn't our systems give us enough advance warning that
Not if it's a backpack. That I'm not
is a
worried about.
backpack big enough?
No, a
To go
backpack will
cover 5 miles.
No, a backpack will destroy like 4
football
square city
stadium.
blocks. Yeah,
Yeah.
It will not do. It does not do that big of it. And it's a low yield to boot. So, they got artillery rounds that do more damage than a backpack nuke. So, but
we do. Iran doesn't.
Well, we don't know what Iran has.
We don't know.
Well,
I mean, if Israel's
See, there's the problem with libertarians. They don't know shit, and they want to make all this stuff up as they go along. Sorry, Tom. You just don't know about backpack nukes.
I can predict the next thing
Think
Tom's
about
gonna
Iran.
say.
Think about Iran's military. Do you really think Iran has got that advanced a military?
I do not.
No.
Yeah.
I'm there
I
with
can
you.
predict
I
the
think
next
I'm
thing
there with
Tom's
you.
going to say.
What's Tom gonna say?
Iran wouldn't have to. We wouldn't have to worry about Iran having nukes if we didn't have a 2-party system.
No, that's not true.
Wouldn't have to worry about global warming if we didn't have a two-party
totally
system.
different.
Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't have to worry about burning bacon in the morning if we didn't have a two-party system.
Thou shalt not burn bacon.
Wouldn't have to worry about diaper rashes if we didn't have a two-party system.
Are you
Diaper
speaking from
rash.
experience,
I'm,
Kevin?
I'm just giving Tom's
rash.
retort.
Diaper rash. I haven't had to
Diaper
worry
rash.
about diaper rash in
Wouldn't have to worry about cold in the mornings if we didn't have a two-party
20
system.
years. Jesus. I don't know what to say to any of that. It's nonsense, but
Mhm.
that's okay.
Wouldn't have to worry about my wife telling me no to sex if it wasn't for a two-party system.
Oh, gee.
Everything in Tom's world, everything is a part of a two-party system.
Yeah. Yeah.
God
Polarization sucks.
God damn it. We just got rid of the FCC. This wouldn't be a problem. All right.
Well, we've already all agreed
already
that the
did that.
FCC is government censorship.
I think the FCC is important in limited things.
Yeah. Communication. The chair is against the wall.
Guaranteeing some communication, especially in emergency situations.
Okay.
And I think some regulation of children content is okay.
Isn't that the parents' job?
Not necessarily. Not anymore, because you have both parents
Not in
working.
Washington.
No, you have both parents working, so there's no parent to keep it on what the kids
Sure
are
there
not
is.
watching.
There are parental
there's
controls
parental
on
controls.
everything.
Yeah.
Can I just?
But again, if you didn't have the FCC, who's going to force the labels on these things to have to comply to parental controls?
No.
Who said anything about
no.
label? Oh my
On
God.
your personal system, whatever you watch on TV, you can literally set it up so
Yes.
that
Okay. But
people
let's
can't
pretend.
watch at
Let's
certain
pretend.
times as well as content.
But hold on. But let's pretend that a cartoon company makes a cartoon of two bunnies fucking. If there's no
Because deer run
FCC,
too fast.
if there's no FCC to require a label to those, then it doesn't matter if your TV has parental controls, because there won't be anything to trigger a parental control, because there's no governing body requiring the two bunnies fucking movie to have a label that would be caught by the parental controls. So you have to have some. Now again,
Sounds like Native American porn. Two bunnies fucking.
dude. Reminds me. Can I tell you a joke? Reminds me of a joke. Little boy in the TP with his Indian dad says, "Well, how do we get our Indian names?" He said, "Well, your Indian names are decided upon the first things that we see after you're born. For example, your sister, two deer in the wind, your brother, mountain sunrise, and you, two dogs fucking." So it's
I've heard that
Is
joke.
so old. You got to tell it better. You owe it to your kind to tell it better. Hey,
Hear about the Native American and the Chinaman that had a kid? They named it Ugly. Anyway, so
Wow.
I can tell these jokes because I'm Native American, and that's not racist.
Listen. Let's give our final. We
got to do final shots on the Dennis.
Do our final shots.
Parting
Dennis
shots.
is right there. Parting shots. Can I go first? I would like
You
to. 'cause
never want to go first.
but I do this time. I do.
Go, Paul, go.
All right.
Normally,
So-
only happens in the bedroom.
Yeah, I
When
want to
his
give
wife,
a
he goes first and he's done.
huge shout out to the president Donald Trump, who has entered God trolling mode.
Oh yeah.
I saw this, but I couldn't verify he posted it.
Yeah,
Have you been able to verify it?
after his tweet yesterday, where he said a huge thank you to all the No Kings protesters yesterday. I was very concerned a king was trying to take my place, but thanks to your tireless efforts, I am still your president. Great job, all. I'm like, that's some funny shit. Thank you to Rick. Thank you to Rick for sending that over to
He
me.
is a
Are you
savage troll.
serious?
Yeah.
He really posted.
Yeah. Like,
It's interesting
I don't even
because
like the guy, but that's funny.
did you guys realize that during the campaign, Barron, his son, his youngest son, was in charge of his social media?
that's funny. I didn't know
Because
that.
one, Donald Trump trusted him, and two, Barron could contain him. Dad, you're going to lose the young vote. Can't do that.
Barron did
And
a
Barron
hell of
did
a job.
hell of a job.
He did a
But
hell of a
now,
job. Yep.
Barron is off at college, and here we have.
Daddy's got his Kofifi. Yeah. And everybody's like, well, what the fuck did he just say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Good night.
All right, Tom, parting shots. Actually, Lori, parting shots.
He always forgets the lady in the room. Do you know that?
I remember just fine. Shut the fuck up. Lori, go ahead and talk. God dang, man.
It was good to be back.
It was good to have you back.
Thank you.
How was your
You were
trip?
gone?
Yeah, I was in another state called Boise.
Dick move. Dick move.
I was in Boise. It was a lot of fun. I did.
Did you find something you liked over there?
Housing, sure.
It's not where I was going with
Where
that.
were you going?
Well,
a guy? I saw some.
Okay, yeah, that's where I was going.
Yeah. Although I banged up my foot really, really bad, sprained it really bad, and
That's awkward.
yeah,
Like, get off
so
my foot, you bastard!
no. So I didn't end up. I was gonna go to Old State. What is it? State Street Saloon.
Okay.
Because they promoted for the month of June, Heterosexual Awesomeness Month.
Yeah.
And they had their group become a 501(c), and they went around to all the corporations that, support Pride and said, hey, support us. So they have a parade. I believe it's next weekend.
Straight Pride Parade?
Yeah.
Where's this at? In Marysville?
Boise.
Boise? Okay.
And Boise.
That sounds very Idaho.
You said only place that somebody could get
You
away
said
with
State
that.
Street. I just remembered.
I think it's State Street Saloon.
Yeah, but there's a State Street, Marysville. which is
Anyways,
what I mean.
yeah.
And you're from up that way.
Yeah. That's not a good area up in Marysville. But anyways,
Why, you don't like the natives up there? God, you're so racist. Go ahead.
it's not even native territory, dude. Come on now.
Too late.
Anyways,
It's right
the other interesting thing that happened down there is that Boise canceled their Pride Parade. They had a ton of groundswell support online, but nobody wanted to actually participate in the parade. Now, it might be because, when groups down in the Boise area threatened to go to Tesla dealerships and mark up the cars like they were in Seattle and other places, a lot of people came out with their guns and just said, hey, that's somebody else's property. Don't touch it.
Making me want to move to Idaho.
But the thing with Idaho is that they are respecting our gun laws. I did try to do some shopping down there, and because I don't have a driver's license and I don't have a utility billing for an Idaho resident,
Gotcha.
I cannot purchase anything.
Damn it.
I know.
So
I know.
you came and pick up magazines?
Nope.
It
Nothing.
means you better have a friend that lives over there. That's what you better do.
You cannot if you're from Washington, Oregon, California, Maryland, and Maryland was interesting, and Virginia.
Well, you know what? Get yourself a box at a mailbox store.
Mhm.
Get it through the mail. Hold on to it for a bit, like a couple of small price to pay to be able to go over there and buy a gun. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that was my trip. But
Outlaw Radio
had a
Network
lot
is
of fun.
not advising you on how to break laws.
We're glad you're back. Welcome
Thanks.
back. Good to see you. Thanks for bringing the cake.
Yep.
And you have
Happy
a
Father's Day.
You have a whole bunch of welcome backs in the chat too.
Oh, thanks.
She's walking a little bow-legged though, isn't she?
Hey.
What? Oh, I'm sorry. I was
What was his name?
I'm not gonna say that.
Okay.
Damn.
Notice she didn't
You're
say there wasn't a
assuming
guy.
there was one.
Notice.
Go, Lori, go.
Hey, come on, ride the train and ride
Well,
it. Whoop, whoop.
I mean,
Go ahead, Tom.
She
parting
had you
shots?
bent over the counter over there, so
Yes,
clearly
I
she's
did.
doing something right.
Yes, I did.
Tegan said, "Welcome back, Lori."
Damn it.
Quit encouraging her for
Tegan.
Christ's sakes. Jesus.
Hey, you bent over willingly.
She
Tegan
sure as
said-
hell did.
Tegan said, "A&W is
Whatever you
bad for
stuck in, it made him smile. Bigger
Tegan
than
said,
shit.
"A&W is bad for you. Too much sugar. This has
Yeah, it
zero
is.
sugar. Thank you very much. No
Well, it has
sugar.
aspartame.
I don't care.
You should. That shit's
I don't remember
nasty.
who the comedian was that said this, but it's not like the years. If you die young, the years that you lose are the good years. The years you lose are the ones where your Christian son-in-law is wiping your ass. So I'm totally okay with that. All right, Tom, parting shots.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. For a third
You're
year,
not going to move to Boise, are you, Lori? I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead. I'm just fucking with you.
It was 103 degrees while I was there. It was amazing, but
That was nice.
extremely hot.
It was nice.
But it's a dry heat. Yeah.
No, it's
Got a little
nice.
bit of a
Dry.
tan.
Yeah.
You know.
So they said after the nuke went off, but it was a dry heat. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, God.
Very dry. Yes.
Very dry.
Very dry. So for a third year in a row, Black Ring Spirits has been nominated to Best in the Pacific Northwest.
I've been voting.
Oh, thank you so much.
Everybody needs to vote.
Yeah, and that's all I'm doing. I'm just asking. It's one of those, popularity things, really. But it's a good marketing tool for us.
Yes,
so,
it is.
Can you put a link on our page and save it and share it out?
Yeah, I'll put it on the Outlaw page. How's that?
Yeah, do it. Put it on the Outlaw page.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will put it up. I'm not going to put it up every day. I put it up every day on Black Ring Spirits.
Put it every day on the Outlaw page.
I'll drive people crazy.
Don't give a crap.
Page.
Okay. All right. I shall.
I'll start tagging people.
Okay. You can find a link to vote for Black Ring Spirits for Best Distillery. It's under the food and drink tab on their page. You can go to
eat and drink.
Eat and drink. That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Best Distillery.
Yep. VoteThePNW.com. And we're in multiple categories. Best Distillery,
cocktail.
Best cocktail. Thank you. That'd be yours truly. I'm the only bartender here.
Yeah. And then
best date night.
Oh, that's the one I missed. Best date night.
And I think Heather put us in for one other, but I don't remember what it is.
Well, I looked in the bar tavern.
No,
and I
we're
didn't
not
find
there.
it there.
No, it's not that.
Because he's not a bar or a tavern.
No,
Right.
I know.
Yeah,
but-
it's distillery, best cocktail, best date night, and
Is it dog friendly?
we are dog friendly.
I think we need to create our own Outlaw Radio Network awards with like award titles that make sense. Like best place to make a bad decision in. You know?
That sounds fun.
Best place to feel like an idiot. Best place to get slapped by a woman. Stuff like that.
Just
let's do
real
that.
real world.
Yeah, real world award. We'll call it the Outlaw Radio Network Real World Awards.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, I like this.
Best place to take a girl out that you want to sleep with.
So what you're saying is best meat market?
No, like
Yeah.
a date, like the best place to take a girl that you want to sleep with.
Yeah, like the Sandpiper back.
No,
in the day, or
because there you were trying to meet a
Michael's or
girl.
the
This is
Night
if you met a
Shift.
girl and you're taking her on a date.
Oh, so you're trying to be impressive.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody in the chat, come up with some of the award
Best
titles.
date for under $20.
Oh, geez.
$20?
Yeah.
You ain't going on a date for under $20.
Home cooked meal at home at your house.
Yeah, I was like, come to my place. Let me make you a
I've got a
meal, and
great
I'll buy a bottle
What's
of
your
wine.
great idea, Lori? What do you got?
Best costumes. That's all I'm going to
Best
say.
costumes. Okay, yeah. Best place to watch Paul suck at softball.
Role playing costumes, Tom, if you need help.
Yeah, role playing costumes. That's great.
Because I was thinking about Kevin
Lori.
cooking at home,
Yeah, but
and how
Lori-
would he make that look better? He would.
Best place to get
Awesome.
best place for birth control. Like I think these are the
Clothing
kinds of-
for you, buddy. Clothing.
I think these are. Yeah, we should come up with a list.
Yeah. Everybody in the chat, please feel free.
Yeah.
Please.
And then tell your businesses, your business friends.
Yeah.
So what we for the first year, because I could see this turn into a thing. For the first year, we should keep it simple and like 10 or 12 categories.
Okay.
Because it's just going to be us
Making the
managing
decision.
this mess.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and managing is going to be a lot of data.
Yeah. And then everybody who gets nominated, we'll send them a little award certificate.
Sure.
And then if they win, we'll send them an award certificate.
Sure.
We can give them a little outlaw sticker.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Perfect.
There you
Yeah.
go. Okay, let's
Yeah.
end
You
this
can
thing
do
up. Some
most
of
of
us
that
have to
by
work.
email.
By the way, I do want to say this. The best coffee in South Kitsap,
Okay.
Port Orchard Coffee Company.
Okay, great.
Okay. I don't
Over-
drink coffee, so I have
I get
no
hot cocoa,
opinion.
but their staff is great.
Oh.
Really good. Maddie.
Oh,
and
is
her
that where you
team.
get your sugar-free?
Sugar-free hot cocoa? They're the ones located
Oh.
in the gas station there at Tremont.
Time do you start work in the morning,
Okay.
Tom?
Tomorrow's Monday.
Oh, good for you, man.
That's my Saturday.
That's your Saturday.
This is my Friday night.
I got you.
I'm still on vacation.
Yeah, you enjoy
It's
this.
been
Some
a
of us-
4-month vacation.
What time do you got to be up tomorrow, Paul?
Yeah, 6.
Oh, well, let's just keep this thing going then.
6 a.m.
all
You
right,
have to be up or out of the house.
No,
That's-
I have to be out of the house at 6 a.m.
My parting shot.
Oh, I thought you already said it.
No, I never said mine. My parting shot is just I miss my dad. I love you, Dad. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next Sunday, Outlaw Radio Network. If you're not sure if you're going to vote for Caldeer, you probably want to get some Black Ring Spirits and get yourself plenty of liquored up to make that decision. Good night, everybody. We love you.
All
Good
right.
night.
Good
Outlaw
night.
Radio
Love you.
Network.
Have a
Peace.
great week.
Respect the adios, muchachos.
Bye.